sanctuary of Delphi is probably the most extraordinary of all ancient Greek sites. Delphi amazes all who visit it. This place is the center of the world. The ancient Greeks called it the omphalos, which means the navel of the earth. Zeus, the father of the gods, wanted to find the center of the universe, so he sent two eagles flying from the opposite ends of the universe. And the place where they met was Delphi.
Welcome to Delphi, Indiana, where our storied past is fueling a stellar future.
Whenever and wherever human beings endure suffering and humiliation, sometimes we must interfere. When human lives are in danger, when human dignity is in jeopardy, wherever men or women are persecuted, that place must, at that moment, become the center of the universe.
No, I'm going to go on the record right now and say they're trying to kill Rick.
Yeah.
They want to die.
Yeah.
It's like always like in and out, in and out. They don't want him. They don't want us to see
Because
it.
he's my size. Chains and collars and leashes all over.
It's all about optics. You don't have all of those people around Rick Allen because they want to keep everybody else safe. They don't want us to see Rick Allen. They don't want us to look at Rick Allen. They don't want to see his face and his eyes. Remember when he came in June and he was all doped up and he was dissociative and he was experiencing psychosis from being tortured and starved and sleep deprived and probably withheld his medication. All of these things that they were doing to him so that he would show up looking like a zombie and couldn't protest or assist in his defense. Guess what? The eyes of the world are on them. They're not allowed to do that to him anymore, and they have tried to break him. And Rick Allen, he's not going to break. Look at, he has done a year in solitary confinement. A year.
Like, he's on the upside of things. Like, if he's still alive, he's getting better every day.
His attorneys get thrown off the case, and he turns to his wife and he says, it's okay. You didn't break him. You're not going to break him. He's not guilty. Whatever they're trying to do, you're hip to it. It is not going to happen.
Question. Judge Gould was finally like, just answer the question. And did you or did you not, I think, read a report or add a report? I don't know. It was something simple. And the expert witness wanted to give a long explanation. It was really difficult for him to just say yes or no. And he started on this long answer, right? This long explanation of an answer. And one of the jurors, and then the prosecution interrupted to say yes or no again. And one of the jurors blurted out, let him answer. So I had not seen that before. I think the juror probably immediately regretted that. It seemed like to some people who had a really good view that he was just like he didn't even mean to say that, and he said it. That was interesting, and I would probably say that's a bit of a win for the defense right there.
Do you have any idea what their defense is going to be, given the fact that the judge is basically taking away their defense?
Am I the only person in the world talking about attacking the timeline, hacking the timeline, hacking the timeline, hacking the timeline?
Do you have any idea what their defense is going to be, given the fact that the judge is basically taking away their defense? Taking away their defense.
Like, am I in crazy? 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 Like, am I in crazy?
Challenge the timeline of the murders.
Talking about attacking the timeline.
What's the strategy today?
Winning.
Winning. Whose motherfucking hair is that?
What's the strategy today?
Winning.
Winning.
The consensus has been challenge the timeline of the murders. Challenge the timeline of the murders.
Hi, friends. Am I in crazy world? Everybody's here. You're all here. Welcome to our productions, our channel. Thank you for being patient with me. I was telling Luke earlier, you should probably just assume a 10 to 15 minute buffer when I schedule lives. Although I schedule them at the time I just entirely intend to do them. Life has been lifing lately, as y'all probably know, with your own lives. I'm about to break this. So, how's everybody doing? I think you need to start wearing the shirt. What shirt? I'm a mess. I'm sorry, y'all. All right. Did y'all see that true crime? What is it? Hidden true crime clip. Jurors have had enough of Nick McClelland's bullshit, it seems. Telling Courtney earlier, we could probably have another 2 to 3 hours before Judge Gold decides to sua sponte dismiss both the juror that hates Nick McClelland and whatever juror has extensive firearms expertise. Yeah, I would have loved to have seen that. Oops. Oh, hold on 1 second. All right. Yeah, I don't watch Hidden True Crime. I used to. Before Delphi, actually, used to watch them. I started to kind of feel a little bit unsure around the time they started covering the Koberger case. I started thinking, that's interesting. There's some interesting takes for a psychologist with a YouTube channel. So I don't know. She had her Dr. Boggling last night. Rambling nonsense. Yeah, I think you're probably talking about her and her hubby, who, again, no disrespect. We're all, I'm a YouTube creator, so I'm not trying to clap on YouTube creators, but their takes are trash, man. Absolute trash. For a psychologist, what is he, a forensic psychologist? Hey, Steve. Here is Steve and Angel. Everybody say hello to Steve. Thank you so much, Steve. We're so happy you're here. I hope Angel's doing well. I hope you're doing well. Hi, Mar. So Courtney just sent me a couple, I believe this is the Wish blog. That is the first thing we're going to start with because we've had like quite a witness-packed morning, I guess. They had, so far, I want to say 3 this morning, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not trying to clap, but their content's trash. Yeah, we keep it real here. Wish, Delphi, blog. And I had every intention last night of watching Andrea with y'all. I couldn't get home in time, but I did catch it. I hope everybody else did as well. And I haven't heard anything about her not making it in today, so I assume that she is in the courtroom watching, and that's great. I did mean to try and grab the state filed a motion in limine again, their favorite kind of motion. They filed a motion in limine to exclude the defense's witness, who was scheduled to testify this morning. So they filed it this morning. That's because that's how we do. That's how we do. And obviously the judge did not grant that because the witness did testify this morning. He is a world-renowned, I think Harvard educated, either psychologist, psychiatrist, scientist. I will pull it up in a minute. But he's an expert in solitary confinement, the brain, and how those things interact to produce false confessions. Hey, welcome. It's just me. That's certainly a reasonable guess. You know, if what Elvis Fields said is true, then that one makes sense. There's a lot of questions. Okay, here we go. Let's get into it. 9 a.m. Court resumes. So this is just a recap. Okay, here we are. 9:06 a.m. State prosecutors filed a motion in limine against defense expert Stuart Grassin. I'm sorry, and if I'm pronouncing that wrong, someone correct me. Grassin was expected to testify about the effects of solitary confinement on an inmate, but the prosecution's motion is an attempt to limit or prevent evidence, or in this case, a testimony from the jury. It wasn't clear how Judge Gold would rule on that. But here we are. So he did testify, and we are about to read about it. I wonder why Judge Gold allowed, although, okay, I do remember reading, she did allow this witness to testify, but there was a little bit, there was like an admonishment, like, he can testify, but he better fucking watch it. Don't step out of line. Like, lady, he's a world-renowned expert. Like, you look silly. Janice Allen, Richard Allen's mother, arrived in the courtroom around 9 a.m. She's been gone while recovering from a fall that she suffered while coming into the courthouse last week. Richard Allen entered a few minutes later in a turquoise button-down shirt. Hey, we love turquoise. Love that. The court began at 9. The state filed a motion in limine requesting Dr. Grassin's testimony to not be considered, presuming guilty or innocence of Richard Allen or opinions legal. Oh, they're presuming because they presume that it guilt or innocence of Richard Allen or opinions and legal conclusions of Richard Allen. Basically, you're not allowed to test guilt or innocence of someone like that. Defense said that it had reservations about the timeline of their request, saying a witness already can't testify to guilt or innocence, but can disagree without other testimony. Allen's legal team argues, I think that was a misspeak. They are chaotic again this morning, y'all, but legal team of Allen argues that this could, in this case, handcuff Allen. Fair. In response, prosecutors said that they filed the motion because Westcott made a comparison to Allen's innocence in her testimony on Monday. Allen's legal team argued that the motion's request is too broad and asked for something that doesn't exist at this point. Yeah, the state asked for something that doesn't exist at this point. Gull said as long as the doctor's been told not to testify inappropriately, they shouldn't have to worry about it. The judge added that if the witness crosses the line, then they'll have a different discussion. So disrespectful. You just told a doctor of many things, of many accolades, and much reverent experience and knowledge, took time to come testify in a matter that he is an expert in. You just told him not to step out of line. Defense then called Betsy Blair, a witness that told the police that she saw a bridge guy. Blair said the prosecution did not ask her what car she was driving on February 13th, 2017, earlier in the trial. She testified that she went to the trails near the Monon High Bridge on February 13th, 2017, and then she left a while after. She returned at 1:45 and left for good at 2:15. Blair told the court that she left the Mears entrance and turned left. She saw one car in the CPS lot. It had been backed into a parking spot and its front was pointing toward County Road. She said the car was not a bright color like red or yellow. Defense attorney Andrew Baldwin asked Blair if it was not a black car. She said she didn't recall. Baldwin handed Blair a statement she made on April 2nd, 2019. In this statement, she says the car could not have been black. Blair said she only saw the side of the car and couldn't tell if it was a hatchback, adding that she even drew the profile of the car for police. The jury was then shown a defense exhibit, Blair's drawing of the car. The defense ended its questioning and cross-examination began at 9:30 a.m. Blair told the prosecution that she told police on February 13th, 2017 about the car that she saw in the CPS lot. This is so funny, right? Remind me never to back into a parking space. And while you're at it, remind me never to wear a black or blue neutral Carhartt jacket. And remind me never to dress like a generic Indiana man. And remind me never to agree to provide a statement as a helpful witness after 2 little girls have been murdered. Never do any of those things. The defense ended its questioning and cross-examination began at 9:30. Blair told the prosecution she told police on February 13th, 2017 about the car that she saw in the CPS lot. Prosecutor Stacey Diener said she told Blair that a similar vehicle had been seen around the same time, parked off the road, and asked Blair if that changed her recollection. Blair said that she felt certain about the car she saw. Try and gaslight our girl, Betsy. Betsy knows what the fuck she saw. Nice try, Stacey. When cross-examination ended, the jury asked Blair 2 questions. Number 1, is it possible that the car of the CPS belonged to someone inside? And the answer was the building was abandoned. Number 2, do you know if anyone checked to see if the car belonged to an employee? I don't know. Next on the stand. Actually, y'all, I'm going to hop out for 1 second. I need to blow my nose. I'll be right back. I have learned not to blow my nose on stream because then I get turned into a meme. My allergies are allergying. Okay. Next up, Dr. Stuart Grassian. Dr. Stuart something or other. He is a Harvard-educated man and has been on faculty at the Harvard University School of Medicine for 25 years. So naturally, Nick's like, yeah, he don't know what he's talking about. Dr. Grasson told the court he had a special interest in what solitary confinement does to someone's mental health and that he has evaluated several hundred people in those conditions. Grasson said that the defense reached out to him about whether solitary confinement played a role in the incriminating statements Allen was making in prison. The doctor was given videos, reviewed Westcott's report, Wallace's notes, and several other records. He said he also listened to audio of Allen's phone calls from Westville Correctional Unit. All information was from November 2022 to the spring of 2023. Grasson also said that he was given info on Allen's behavior inside Wabash Valley Correctional Facility up to February 2024. At this point, the prosecution asked for a sidebar. After the sidebar, defense attorney Brad Rosie asked Grasson about solitary confinement in a clinical professional cell. I don't know what that means. Grasson said that when a person's confined to a small cell, there's limited availability for mental stimuli. He told the court it's toxic for mental health and people cannot function. In the worst cases, people can become psychotic. The doctor said that Allen's cell totally met those requirements. Diener objected and said she needed more info on the sources. Diener just said, source? Question mark? Objection. Source? Grasson responded, the United Nations considers anything more than 15 days in solitary confinement torture. About 15 months. What's that do? How's that look for the state of Indiana? Man. Diener objected, saying that doesn't apply to the Indiana Department of Correction. What? The United Nations says that 15 days in solitary confinement is torture, but the Diener, Stacey Diener, is like, yeah, but that's not an Indiana Department of Correction policy. So Grasson told the jury that solitary confinement can cause behaviors, including smearing feces and acting out sexually, and that there is a high rate of suicide. When Rosie asked about delirium, Grasson described it as a fog with everything floating by, nothing making sense, and that can be caused by internal factors like sepsis and heart failure. Those are interesting examples that were cited, those two, given what we know Mr. Allen, what his cardiac history looks like, and also some of the behaviors that he was engaging in. Hey, Big Fish, good to see you. Yeah. Grasson said Allen absolutely displayed symptoms of delirium in his phone calls from jail. Grasson testified that false memory is a big component in Allen's evaluation. He said false memory begins looking like memory over time. It's a game of telephone in your brain, and it starts with, I think I saw. He told the court that Allen's case looked like false memory. Direct questioning ended and cross-examination began. Grasson said a real memory is extremely perceptual when compared to a fake one. He added it was, quote, always about the conditions, end quote, when it came to solitary confinement and protective custody. Diener ended, and after a quick mention about conditions by Rosie, the jury asked questions. Jury question number 1. Do you believe psychotic behavior can go back to normal after being removed from solitary confinement? Answer, yes. Wow, I like that question. And I really like that answer. I'm sorry, y'all. We got puppy problems today, but okay. I wonder why they asked that question. Why do you think? Why do y'all think that the jury would ask that? Like out of concern, or I wonder what they're thinking. Question number 2. Oh, I bet I know why. Well, no, he was still in solitary in Wabash, right? Yes, Pop Fox. He did admit to killing his wife and grandkids, among other things that just weren't factually true. Grasson left the stand, and the defense called Dr. Eric Warren. Warren lives near Memphis, has a doctorate in biochemistry, and owns SEP Forensic Consultants, which helps with toolmark identification and crime scene reconstruction. He previously worked for the state of Tennessee as a special agent in firearms, but he left the job to pursue more toolmark work. Warren said his industry has a critical community with professionals and said that community work can be helpful because it's like peer review. Maybe because he appears normal in court. Yeah, good. Yeah, I bet that's why. Like, oh, if he was so psychotic, why is he okay now? Yeah, that feels like a totally reasonable explanation and a reasonable question. Warren told the jury that he was asked by Rosie to review conclusions made by Melissa Oberg, a former firearms analyst who examined the bullet found by Libby and Abby's bodies and to examine Richard Allen's gun. He explained the process of reviewing Oberg's reports, including her deposition and photographs of the cartridge. He then explained what class, subclass, and individual characteristics are when they come to bullets. Class is general, like the make of a car, and subclass is in between, larger than individual. Individual would be fine details like hair scratches. He mentioned that labs have been shut down over subclass and individual characteristics. I don't know what that means. Warren said he was shown a 5-minute video of Richard Allen's Sig Sauer, but couldn't find anything significant in the video. He then explained the difference between cycling and firing a bullet, and said firing a bullet would make stronger marks. According to Warren, it is not appropriate to compare a fired cartridge to a cycled cartridge. Apples to apples is what Warren said he would expect, not apples to oranges. That feels reasonable. Warren confirmed to the jury that Oberg used a fired round to compare the cycled round, to the cycled round. Warren confirmed to the jury that Oberg used a fired round to compare to the cycled round, which he said was not right as it's not repeatable and reproducible. Ta-da! We're all like, no fucking way. We're not crazy, y'all. We're 2 for 2 in the past 24 hours of not being crazy, not succumbing to the gaslight. James Luttrell began his cross-examination, asking if Warren only looking at the report and the photos and not the physical evidence would impact his ability to draw conclusions. Warren disagreed. He said that Oberg didn't examine the actual extractor in the gun to determine if there were potential subclass characteristics. Uh-oh, Oberg. Rosie then showed Warren a picture of triangular marks on the cartridge, which are ejector marks. He says that those were, quote, hallmarks of subclass characteristics. Luttrell objected to Rosie mentioning a lab that had been shut down over subclass characteristics, but Gull sustained. She sustained the objection, but Gull okay. The two went back and forth on if, quote, most labs use CMS, which is an objective identification process. Warren said that some labs do not, but he wouldn't classify it as most, and he said that he would have said there was an insufficient agreement in the cartridges. Not a match, Oberg. Not a match. Hi, the band VIA. Welcome. Thank you. That's so nice to say. I love you too. This is my sentiment. Is it, how do you say this? Luttrell? I was saying Luttrell, but Luttrell just sounds like more appropriate because he's just like wall. Luttrell. Like what? How do you like that reasoning? It's like trying to compare a thumbprint to a toe print. She showed, oh, hi, DB. Thank goodness. I was hoping you were in here. She showed the ejector marks as a way to talk about something before that would have been better to talk about if it applied to the extractor marks. So she was also kind of conflating the two, or treating them as though they were like similar enough to be interchangeable. It's pronounced la fucking weird, dude. That's what I thought. That's what I thought. Thank you, DB. So then we took a break at 11:10. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of questions. Court is back in session at 11:31 a.m. There have been delays in getting the pool notes from Delphi today. I wonder why. Defense attorney Brad Rosie is continuing his questioning of Eric Warren. He asked, do firearm manufacturers take into account the force of the slide? And Warren responds, yes, it's a blueprint characteristic. Rosie asks, is there research on integrity of the slide over time? Warren responds, not specifically. Rosie asks, how would you describe 6 Hours quality? Warren says, generally perceived as high quality, the slide should maintain its integrity over time. At 11:36, attorney for the prosecution, James Luttrell, begins his cross-examination. He asks, you have no written report in this case. Why? And Warren says, it's not something that came up. Luttrell asks, you would expect tool marks to persist over years, even with heavy use? And Warren says, yes. Luttrell goes through class, subclass, and individual characteristics, focusing on subclass being from the manufacturing process. He asks Warren, even sequential serial numbers may not share subclass characteristics. And Warren says, correct, but it depends. Luttrell asks, will a trained examiner always look for subclass? And Warren says, yes. Luttrell asks, did Oberg have any concern of subclass on the extractor or chamber? And Warren says, no. Luttrell asks, do you know how many years of experience Oberg has as a firearms and tool mark examiner? Are you suggesting to the jury that Oberg forgot about subclass of the extractor or chamber? And Warren says, I'm saying that's possible because there's no documentation. I make every effort to document to the best of my ability. Luttrell asks, Oberg noted 3 different tools making strengthened results, right? And Warren responds, no. Luttrell asks if Warren agrees on the chamber hood in the report. Warren says some argument which is not sufficient. Luttrell asks Warren, the test-fired cartridge in this case was suitable in Oberg's conclusion. And Warren says, yes, that was her conclusion. Luttrell asks, you actively use CMS firearms training methods? And Wheeler, I don't know who Wheeler, I think they mean Warren. Warren responds, yes. It's only applicable to striated marks and not in impressed marks. He says he does not use it in every case. Luttrell asks, were you trained to use another examiner's photographs to testify about CMS in court? And Warren says, yes. Luttrell asks, in 2021, did you indicate that you did not use CMS? And Warren says, it might not have been applicable in that case, but I don't recall. Luttrell, so Judge Gull is basically, I mean, the defense is not objecting to this line of questioning because they're not annoying idiots. But Gull, you know, I mean, I'm at, like he's just like trying to impeach this guy left and right. Gull has no problem with it. She's not sua sponte, you know. Yeah, I don't actually know what any of this means, except that I trust this expert, and I never believed that Oberg's experiment to be credible or valid. So Latrell says that Warren's lab is not accredited and asks, what's the most important tool in your lab? Warren says, myself, big dick energy. Latrell asks, how valuable to you is your comparison microscope? And Warren says, you need to use it if you're making a comparison. Latrell asks, when asked by Rosie if you received everything you needed that didn't include the cartridge or the gun? And Warren says, I received all the documentation I needed. Pool reporter notes say that at this point, Latrell is hammering into the expert on why he didn't request and physically examine the cartridge and the gun. At 12:15 p.m., Rosie begins his redirect. Rosie asks, did I ask you to write a report? And Warren says, no. Rosie asks, did you make yourself available to the prosecution if they wanted to depose you? And Warren says, yes, but it was a few weeks ago and I was in Morocco. They didn't want to depose him until a few weeks ago. And he was in Morocco. This guy, man, he's kind of a boss. At 12:24 p.m., the jury began their questions of Warren. So these are your jury questions, y'all. Let's see what they have to say. My screen keeps freezing. It's like only Indiana media freezes my computer screen. I don't have this problem with any other. Hold on. All right, I think that's gonna work. Number one, juror question. How would CMS or objective testing be used? Pool notes do not show an answer. The pool note taker fell asleep. Would removing, cleaning, disassembling or disassembling the gun change individual characteristics of the firearm? Warren says no, only if there was some sort of damage. Makes sense. Do you know if manufacturers keep track of subclass? And Warren says no, they don't. Pool notes do not transcribe a question, but Warren says my role here was to educate attorneys on what documentation was and see if it supported the concession. 5, would doing your own analysis have been more conclusive? And Warren says hard to say. 6, is CMS criteria the gold standard? Pool notes do not indicate an answer. What's up with our pool note reporter? You know they are, Judge Jessica. It's so interesting that they can't hear the answers. Are you a certified firearm and tool mark examiner? No answer in pool notes. Would individual markings be different depending on who cycles? Warren says documentation of Oberg does not support conclusion. Documentation of Oberg does not support her conclusion. Did you look at the subclass marks of the cartridge? Pool notes do not show an answer. What's the relevance of cartridges having similar subclass characteristics? Warren says depends on if it's from manufacturing or cycling. 11, are sequential serial numbers made in the same lot? And Warren says, generally accepted that close serial numbers have parts made at similar times, but they may be in different lots. Are you aware that Oberg's conclusion was unfired by another expert? Warren says yes. Are you aware that Allen's gun ejector was recessed and had similar markings to markings made on the cartridge? Pool notes do not indicate an answer. 14, is it a normal practice to not issue a report when consulting? And Warren says, yeah. 15, what are the chances that the cartridge at the scene matches the test bullets? And Warren says there's a higher likelihood of guns just in Indiana. The court is in recess and breaks for lunch at 12:42 p.m. All right. What do we make of that? Oh, review. Okay. Well. Yeah, last night was bad. If anyone missed the debacle of the pool notes last night, it was bad. Yellow just sent a video and said, play this. Okay. I did want to do something first. So I don't know if anyone is in the chat is aware of this, but it, in case you've missed the 8,000 calls and text messages you've likely been getting, today's voting day, election day, all across the United States. Local, state, federal. Yeah, and I'm like, I don't even really know how accurate these questions are because note taker kind of a lot. It was super practical, hard to get, you know. I wouldn't want to do it, but she seemed to struggle bus a little. Hi now. Do we know which witness had the juror thing? That was the solid. I think it was the ballistics. I think it was this guy. I'm pretty sure that's what Hidden True Crime said, if I remember correctly. Okay, so who in the chat is frustrated with Judge Gull and the Indiana Supreme Court? I feel like probably everybody. So I was talking to a friend who is in Indiana. And basically, you know, it might be a good opportunity today, especially if there are Indiana. No, I love Judge Gold. Especially if the M's, I know that M's and I are on the same page. We are pulling our hair out every day. So if there are people in Indiana in this live, which I imagine out of 342 of the viewers here, I imagine that, and I know some of y'all already are from Indiana, but I believe, given that it's election day and that given Supreme Court elections impact them, and they impact, you know, their time on the bench. They impact a lot of things. So I think that we should do a blitz of letter, email, writing, calling. Now, granted, they won't. Their offices are all closed. But remind me to come back to that because Courtney sent me a video to play for us. And I'm going to play it. It's short. And then we're going to do a little community activity together. We're going to do a group project. It'll be fun. I promise. Let me load this video. So I believe the juror was actually yelling at Cleland because he would not stop objecting or interrupting. Like he would ask a question of the Dr. Warren, and Dr. Warren would start to answer because I don't know if y'all know this. I imagine you do, because most adults with relative cognitive flexibility know this. Not every question has a simple yes or no answer, but I guess Nick was asking one of the, he was asking a question under cross-examination. He was just like, I don't know, or maybe it was Luttrell. I don't know. It was the state. And as Dr. Warren would go to answer, the prosecution, the state would basically be like, yes or no, answer yes or no. And at one point, even Judge Gold was just like, just answer the question. And so finally, the state was like, yes or no. And a juror had a little outburst. And like accidentally, probably unintentionally, audibly said, like, let him answer, which is hilarious. Because I don't think that the battering of the witness was having the effect that they thought it was. And maybe that juror's reaction kind of gave them a better idea of how it was, how they were being perceived. Annoying as fuck. Like after a while, objection. It's like, why are you objecting so much? Why won't you just let them answer? I can go all day. He's so aggressive. And for what? Like, this is not a hostile witness. This is not like an unwilling witness. This is not like a convicted felon, suicide companion witness who's like giving you, like, he's an expert. He's a doctor. He's a professional. He does this for his professional, like, this is part of his job. And you're being so extra right now. Like, they are so extra. I hope the juror does not get in trouble as well. I could see, I said to Courtney earlier, like, okay, well, I guess we'll have to just wait for Judge Gold to excuse that juror because they made their frustration with the prosecutor known. And of course, Gull would not like that, but I don't think that would be like a legitimate reason for her to do that. But like, since when does she ever? Who knows? Fingers crossed. Courtney would like us to watch this video. It's 3 minutes. Can we do it? I think we can do it.
Warning, incoming transmission.
Solitary confinement is toxic to mental function. There's a particular illness that results from being in solitary confinement. It's a delirium. It's a neuropsychiatric, almost a medical, a neurologic disease. What we see in humans, we see it in animals, we see it in mammals.
Now, suppose that in addition to an environment that is merely strange, we produce one that's really frightening.
Dr. Harry Harlow in the 1950s did some experimentation with monkeys, studying the effect of social isolation. And one of his experiments involved taking monkeys who had been raised with other monkeys, so they were socialized and okay, and then putting them in what was amounted to a solitary confinement chamber.
Distressed. He may die for want of love.
You'd see them rocking and shaking and sort of ritualistic, compulsive behavior. And after some period of time, they brought them out and put them into a cage with other animals. These monkeys were massively impaired. They were frightened, hiding. And then they would have sudden aggression, attacking each other. Very different behavior, very abnormal behavior. There was no recovery. These animals didn't recover from this. One of the important clinical findings with solitary confinement is that people deprived of an adequate level of stimulation become actually intolerant of stimulation. They overreact, they become hyper-responsive to it, and they can't stand it. That's why you see guys getting out of solitary and they just hide in their room because can't stand stimulation. There has been a recent study that actually showed that this is a reality in the brain. It was a study from the Balkan conflict in which it looked at prisoners released from confinement and looked at their brainwaves. Some of these guys had hyper-responsive reactions, spike reactions to a visual stimulus, and they looked at who those fellows were. Semi-starvation? No. Length of time in prison? No. Beatings? No. There was only two things that predicted: head trauma to the point of unconsciousness, and a period of time in solitary confinement.
Okay. As upsetting as that video was, I totally understand for those who needed to excuse themselves. JP Eagles, see ya. Sorry if that upset y'all. Tried to do a trigger warning. We're all adults here. Animal videos are hard to watch. Imagine the effects of that on a human man. Horrible. Absolutely horrible. Welcome back, loves. That sucked. And that's the reality of solitary confinement on primates. That's what people do. That is what happens to the brain when subjected to that. Miserable and uncomfortable. Absolutely. It's awful. So that is she sent another one. I asked her if there are any animals in this video. So if there are, we won't watch it. And if there are not, I would like to watch it because it's more clinical. And it's Dr. Warren, not Dr. Warren, Dr. Grassin again. Hey, Dom, good to see you. This is great. No compensation will ever make it better. Right. So if that's the impact it has on the monkeys in that study, you can imagine how it would be for an adult man who is used to living, who has a close community of family and friends, and that's understandable. I generally don't like to watch animal stuff either. It's okay. Yes, we are going to do our community project in a second. I think we're going to hold off on this because I'm not hearing back from Yellow, and I don't want to, we'll wait. We'll get back to that later. All right. So here is what I want to do for a minute. We talked about this website yesterday. Our dear BFF, hashtag pro bono, maker of all the things and doer of all the stuff, facilitator of all the organizing, Luke, who I don't think, I don't know, are you here, Luke? I saw you earlier. This is the Delphi Justice website that Luke created, and it's awesome, and we're going to look at it together, and I am going to author an email while we're here if anyone wants to do it with me. So this is the homepage. Obviously, you can click here to find out why this matters, and it's all about why we're campaigning, all about the case against Richard Allen and the violations of basically that have occurred. So call to action. Richard Allen's case necessitates immediate action. Contact lawmakers, officials, and the press. Demand a fair trial. Misconduct. Systemic reform. And I'm going to add a fourth bullet here. Public access. Transparency. Hey, Luke. I'm doing a show and tell with your website. So the cool thing is, because we are all well-intentioned justice warriors. Most of us are a little neurodivergent, a little ADHD maybe on some days. Luke made it super easy. He did like most of the work for us, which is great because that means that we're more inclined to actually follow through on what we're talking about here. So if you live in Indiana, you say, I live in Indiana. And here are all of the people that you could write to about your absolute outrage over what Judge Gull is doing. Yeah. A lot of the ships have sailed, but I do believe that the Supreme Court of Indiana, particularly Chief Justice Rush, needs to know that Indiana citizens and her constituents and voters and people all across the United States are so embarrassed and horrified and have lost total confidence in the state of Indiana leadership, government, the courts. They tell us to be law abiding, and yet they don't follow the laws. And we can't trust them. They have broken the public trust. I think that today, as it's election day, I think that focusing our efforts, by Thomas, I think we should contact Loretta Rush. Oh wait, there was something I was supposed to say in particular. Hold on. I can't find it. But anyway, write to Chief Justice Loretta Rush. And I think, has anyone actually done this? Used this website? If Gull kicks that juror off the panel and expects these people to cower, she has another thing coming. That juror might be a favorite in the now close-knit group. Yeah. Does anyone know if the judge told the jurors not to discuss the case with each other? They usually instruct the jury not to discuss it, but it sounds like they're discussing it internally. I don't know. Good question. I imagine it's hard not to because they are sequestered and they're, sitting next to each other all day, walking in and out of the, jury room. I mean, I imagine at the very least there's like vibes, there's vibes. Hi, Christine DC, who's back from the doctor. Woohoo. I hope it was a good visit and I hope you're feeling good. Indiana jurors can discuss cases as long as they're together in one place. Okay, so they all have to be together. So like while they're like in the jury room for like a offer of proof, for example, if they have to be excused and they're in the jury room together could talk about it. Is what I'm understanding. That makes sense. Allowed to discuss as long as they're all together. I don't know, actually. Like, I don't know enough about. I don't know enough about like the jury process. I've never served on a jury. I don't know enough about like the rules or kind of like safeguards that have kind of been flushed out over the years. So I don't really know. I mean, it sounds like the consensus is that Judge Gull has said that they're allowed to talk as long as they're all together. So I don't know if that's a good or bad thing or if it's a neutral thing. I think Christine Beck, I think that is the consensus. Yeah, I think she did. Okay. Makes sense. I haven't heard any news on Andrea Burkhart's writ that was filed with the Supreme Court. Has anybody heard anything about that? I have not. I think Andrea's expectation is that they will maybe not do anything with it and kind of just like hold off on it and kind of let the trial just end without addressing it, which is unfortunate. I live in Indiana my entire life. I never knew we were a state who could ask questions or do this. We've recently gotten ruling about cameras, and we know there aren't many. Crickets on the writ. Yeah, so the jury questions, I was speaking to a family member who also lives in New York State, and we were chatting back and forth, and he's been kind of following the case recently because it's in the news, and he is like, isn't this the thing that you, like, all you do? And I was like, yeah, kind of. And so he was like, wait, the jury's asking questions? Like, what is that about? Are they allowed to do that? And I was like, yeah, in some states they can. He was like, that's awesome. And I agree. I do think it's awesome. It's probably the one thing thus far in this trial that I feel like is like super progressive and like justice conducive, you know? Hi, Donna. Welcome. I'm in Indiana too. So happy that you're here. I'm so happy you're here. We were just discussing the importance of voicing our outrage, our feelings about how Judge Gull, the Attorney General, and particularly the Indiana Supreme Court have failed the public. And I was feeling like super despondent and frustrated this morning when I saw that the prosecution had filed that motion in limine to eliminate out the solitary confinement testimony from that expert. Then we saw obviously that he did end up testifying. So like, I was like, okay, I can chill out a little bit, but I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I feel like they're probably getting close to concluding the defense is probably getting close, right? Because I know, so today we had the solitary confinement testimony. We had Betsy Blair. We had Ballistics, which I imagine will be concluded. Like, I imagine today will be the, yeah, I don't know. I'm just like making noise and killing time. I imagine today will be like, that'll be concluded. I don't think they're going to bring the Toolmark person back for a second day, but maybe they will. Yep. And they still need to do the cell phone expert and Dr. Martin. I imagine they will, and I think they have to call Dr. Martin, who is a psychologist treating Rick Allen in DOC. I thought somebody was posting this morning that Walla was going to testify today. I'm like so like the media is like the boy who cried wolf at this point, obviously. I don't know who's reliable. And then yesterday morning, I made the fatal error of giving Barbara a compliment. I said lately, Barbara, even lately, Barbara McDonald has been like more honest and responsible in her reporting. And then what didn't you know? Last night. So basically, that's like the kiss of death for me to give anybody in the mainstream media in Indiana a compliment. So I'm not going to do it anymore. If state Supreme Court justices are on your ballot, you can always check out recent decisions. I live in Florida. It's super easy for me to cast a lot of no votes. Yeah, I think that's definitely vote no if Loretta Rush should be retained in office. Do you think they realize how angry everybody is? I don't think they care, but do you think they realize it? DB, can you remind me who that is? Is that the cell phone person? It's not the FBI person. I think it's a cell phone person. You think the cell phone expert, the reason we haven't seen them yet is because it's going to be like their big like Horan is IDOC Psych? Did I ask the right question? No, not Dr. Martin. You said they have to make a run at getting, who's that? Horan? Oh, FBI. Oh. Donald says, it's interesting. Been in Delphi all day. Say more, Donald. We'd love to hear about what's going on in Delphi. What's the vibe like? Are you inside or just around? Juror did not yell at Gull. Here, I will play. I'll play what I'm not gonna play the whole thing, but I think I have the clip I can get to. Here it is. Here's an explanation.
And Judge Gould was finally like, just answer the question. And did you or did you not, I think, read a report or add a report? I don't know. It was something simple. And the expert witness wanted to give a long explanation. It was really difficult for him to just say yes or no. And he started on this long answer, right? This long explanation of an answer. And one of the jurors, and then the prosecution interrupted to say yes or no again. And one of the jurors blurted out, let him answer. So I had not seen that before. I think the juror probably immediately regretted that. It seemed like to some people who had a really good view that he was just like he didn't even mean to say that, and he said it. That was interesting, and I would probably say that's a bit of a win for the defense right there.
Sorry, I didn't mean to. I hope your eardrums are okay. Yeah. Yeah. She's like, kept going on and on and on. It's probably, I mean, it sounds like it's quite a technical, it's kind of a technical kind of testimony. Anytime DV starts to talk about Toolmarks and ballistics and firearms, you know, I levitate into another plane, and I have to try really hard to stay on task and focus, because it's technical, complicated if you're used to. And I imagine that most of the jurors, it sounds like there's like one at least who's like super, super knowledgeable about it. But if you're not, it's hard. It's hard to follow. It's very technical. And the words like extractor versus ejector versus striation, like there's a lot. There's a lot there. Yes, this is exactly source. You know me, man. You know me, girlfriend. That was exactly what I was thinking about. I was thinking about that GIF of Pooh Bear sitting in like the dark room, and then his soul just leaves his body. Does everyone know what I'm talking about? That's what happens whenever I hear like super technical testimony about anything other than like my special interest. So, yeah. Donald says, I held the line for Andrea at lunch yesterday. I've been helping our people get in. Everybody put a 1 in the chat for Donald. Donald, you are our hero of the day, of the week. That is so, so good of you. And we just have the coolest, like, I feel like I just have been really enjoying what I've been seeing from just like regular old folk like all of us, lay people who just seem to care a whole lot about the truth getting out and are able to like just set aside self-interest for the greater good. It's not often that we get to see that anymore in 2024, you know, United States. It's just like not often that we have this kind of tribal, communal. It's a good vibe. And I really appreciate that, Donald. That's very cool of you. Donald, aside from being a line holder, oh, source, we're wanting Donald, who held the line for Andrea at lunch yesterday and has been trying to just help get, he said, trying to help get our people inside. And we so appreciate you, Donald. Does anybody know what happened during the pre-lunch sidebar where people left the courtroom because the line downstairs was flooded? Honestly, from what Andrea reported, it sounds like, it just kind of sounds like people are wanting to get inside the courtroom. I really don't think it's anything more nefarious than that. I think that the public wants to get inside. Andrea was not there. Oh, was there like an incident that you're talking about? Like an incident, like a... We should all head to Delphi when the defense rests. That's a really nice thought. I would love that. I think that being like all of our peeps being together in Delphi for a verdict would be maybe in another life, my friends. Flooded like rain. I don't think so. All the line holders are heroes. In the cold and in the rain, you guys are the heroes of justice right now. I couldn't agree with that more. I could not agree with that more. And giving up your seat. People, I'm hearing so many stories. Truth Seeker, Donald, all of our friends are giving up they're waiting in line, and if somebody like Andrea or somebody that we need inside to be the eyes and ears and report, if they're not looking like they're going to get inside, we keep hearing all these stories of people offering up their seats, and it's like, God, that's so cool. It's just awesome. Because it's probably like, you know, self-interest suspended. During the sidebar, she left to get in line. Mad people. Reminded me to look at exhibits in Allen County during trial day of Bridge. Oh. So why do we think that the media is what was up with the defendant, Mr. Allen's family seats that go so 10 she allocated them? Why is the media taking family seats away from? Yeah, I was going to ask, so is it really about, I don't think it's about like getting inside. I think it's about sitting behind the defense attorney so that they can see. I'm breaking up a little. Am I still breaking up? Is that any better? Oh, okay. So it's really like because they're, yeah, you can't hear anything in there. Apparently you can't really see anything. It's almost like they're like, I mean, it's not almost like, it's like Goal is purposefully making it hard for the audience, people in the courtroom to see and hear the testimony and the exhibits. You sound good. Okay, awesome. So let's go to oops. When in doubt. That's from yesterday. Okay. A lot of these are from yesterday. He's okay. Okay, I haven't read this one yet, but defense. Am I sharing? Yes. Okay, so this is Fox 59. Defense. That was yesterday. Here's today. Blair returns to the stand. Today is day 16 of testimony. Betsy Blair said she saw a car in the parking lot of the CPS building. It was backed into its spot. An older car, angular in shape, drew an outline of it for law enforcement. Blair could not recall the color, although in 2019 she indicated that it could not have been black. The state objected to the improper use of a transcript with which goal sustained. DB, I have not. Is it new? Like you just made it? Because if that's the case, then I'm going to show it. Oops. Yeah, let's do it. This is the article I'm reading. I made it today. Okay, well then I'll play it right now. Since we're talking Toolmarks, I like it already. Okay, let's see.
You might have heard today in the Richard Allen trial that the defense expert, Dr. Warren, said that he uses the CMS method, which is consecutive matching striae, the marks left on a bullet or shell casing that is manually cycled or fired through a firearm. This is important because he did not use the sufficient agreement standard, which is a lower standard. He uses the CMS standard. It is a more quantitative standard instead of qualitative, whereas sufficient agreement, this looks at the total overall marks that could be found on the shell casing or the bullet. This does not mean the bullet or shell casing has grooves or marks that match up perfectly, hence why the state did not enter the side-by-side photo comparisons of the unspent round and the test-fired round, because there would be no consecutively matched striae, which is what a layperson would expect to see. What Dr. Warren here is saying that he believed there was not sufficient agreement and there was not consecutive match striae. Therefore, what the examiner did was a vibe check. And who is the king of vibe checks? Well, this guy. And guess who's on the state's expert list? Of course, the anti-quantitative measure king himself, Robert Nichols.
Who's Robert Nichols? Donald. DB, that was good. I'm gonna have to watch it one more time, but it was great. Did everybody catch that? I'm gonna link it. Such a good job, DB. You're so smart. You're so many smart. We got so many smart people. Donald says, Donald says, Libby's phone, there was something they plugged into the phone when it was off. Can you say more about that, Donald? That sounds fascinating. I just don't know what it means. But we're all very interested in the phone. So please share. It feels so good to be in a chat with reasonable, intelligent people. It is nice. DB is doing a trouble. There was something plugged into the phone when the phone was silent. Are you talking about Libby's phone? There was something that somebody plugged into Libby's phone, like during the... And then my second question would be like, when? When was this, like overnight on the 13th to the 14th in February? And then my third question would be like, are they talking about the phone? Like, how do we know that? Yeah, Donald, fascinated. Source? We're not doubting you. We're just like, where is this info coming from? Fascinating. Hi, woman doing empathy. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, no, they didn't snap at Gull. They snapped at the prosecutor, or maybe it was Luttrell. It was whoever was doing the cross-examination of the defense expert, their Toolmark firearms expert. The defense said that, Donald. How do you should I send, maybe I can, if you want to like come on and like, you don't even have to put your video on, you can voice chat. Do you want to like tell us about it? You don't have to, but if you want to, you're welcome to. Miku says yelling at the state is me. It's hard to type. That's okay, Donald. Donald, is this defense expert for the cell phone? Nobody could relate to that more, by the way, Donald, than baby girl DB. He has a hard time with the typing on the cell phone. Donald says, yes, the defense expert is on the stand, is what I understood. Yes, yes. And somebody plugged something into the phone overnight, like in the hours of the night when it was supposed to be. Cell expert DB is about to bust. Sorry to be graphic, but he's very excited. It has got me shaking, says Donald. Donald, thank you for coming in and sharing that with us. I know it's hard to type. If you want, you can come on, and I put the link there. You can, I don't think you have to make an account or anything. I think that you just like click it, and then it takes you to StreamYard, and you can turn your camera off if you don't want your camera on. But I would love to hear if typing is, if you want. Open invitation. Wow, so something was plugged into the phone overnight. Brian says, also, I can't type or spell, and nobody in here gives me crap about it. Totally, of course not. I can't speak. I make up words, and I say the wrong things all the time. We just want everybody here to feel welcome. And if we do troll, we are relentless, but it's out of love. Donald is here. Hey, Donald, if you're ready, like in 3, 2, 1, I'm going to put you on stage. Okay. Give me a thumbs up if that's okay. Cause I can see you, but they can't. Here we go. Hey, Donald.
Hey, what's up?
Welcome. I'm so grateful that you are able to give us some on the ground info.
Well, guys, I'll tell you, this is pretty amazing. It's got me quite emotional. At the time when Libby's phone went silent, there was something plugged into the phone. I didn't catch what times it was, but there was something plugged into the phone. That's all I've got, but there was something plugged in to Libby's phone during the time that it was silent. I don't know anything else than that, but I heard that from the defense ladies.
Wow.
I've enjoyed having boots on the ground, I'll tell you. It's been pretty emotional.
Yeah. Were you able to get into the courtroom today, or did you hear that from somebody who was?
I heard that from the direct source from the courtroom.
Okay. Thank you.
And I will not go in because I can't keep my big mouth shut.
I totally relate, Donald. I totally do. So what are you feeling right now?
I think the prosecution's case has went to put.
Really?
Yes, that's what I feel, because that evidence right there was the biggest damning evidence that there is.
Wow. That's pretty upsetting that they were able to determine that, and that the implications of that, I don't even know what to think.
Well, I've been keeping up on some of the defense questions and everything. The defense is on it, or I mean, the jury is on it, and the defense is on it. The jury has been asking some majorly interesting questions, because these are questions that some of the lawyers didn't even think of.
Yeah.
So guys, we gotta stand behind the jury. The jury's almost in our hands now.
Right. You're absolutely right. And the jury is gonna,
Because
yeah, go ahead, Donald.
for the simple fact, everything that the prosecution has brought has been almost debunked, almost everything. And they didn't test enough. They didn't test enough to get the true story of the case. So now they've cut their own throats.
Yep.
And like I said, guys, I'm a total awe. That was something that nobody knew.
No. Wow.
And I talked to Richard Allen's father. That was a heart-wrenching moment. He is a great man. He is a strong man. And I'll tell you, I pray for that family daily.
Donald, you're amazing. I'm just listening to everything that you're saying, and I'm like so grateful for you and your ability and willingness to just like see the truth for what it is, and your compassion for that family. I mean, I think that it probably meant a lot to him.
Like I told him, me along with a lot of other people have followed this case from day one. We have seen the shit show from day one. And I said, we have pretty much backed your son through this whole shit show. A lot of us have. And I told him, I said, I listen to a lot of the podcasts that are on the defense side. And I will say this, that's the only side to be on right now, ladies and gentlemen, because of the simple fact, the prosecution is supposed to be we the people. It's not we the people. Sorry, I went into a preach. I'm sorry.
No, we want everybody. I know that because you're probably on your cell phone, so it's hard you can't probably like keep up the chat. Just so you know, you have so much like support and love in the chat right now. Like we're all just amazed at what you're saying right now. Like nobody can believe it. Nobody can believe it.
This is not a we the people thing. We the people don't support this.
Right.
Me and my dad are at odds against this.
Yeah.
Because right now I tell as it is. We the people have failed.
Yeah.
We the people have failed. We the people have not stood up for the right things. Now it's time. If we're going to let this keep going, this country's going to be in a world of hurt.
It's scary.
Yes, it is scary.
Yeah.
Because this don't only happen in Carroll County. This is all over the U.S., people. All over the U.S. And it ranges from the presidency all the way down to the bottom of the totem pole.
Right. Yeah. It could be any one of us.
Yes, it could be any one of us. And it's not we the people that's making these decisions to prosecute this guy.
No.
We the people do not stand for this. Period.
Donald, you don't have to say specifics, but are you relatively like local to the area somewhat?
I'm 40 minutes away.
Okay.
Yep. And I ain't scared to tell you, I'm 40 minutes away in Bunker Hill, Indiana.
I ain't scared. Well, good. We got your back, Donald. Have you noticed that other people are there people like you around? Are there other Donalds around?
Well, right now outside, I'm the only one standing in my own little area because the others that are outside I do not trust. I do not want to talk to. So I am staying in my own little area talking to you great people.
Well, we appreciate that.
And like I said, I come over yesterday. I just basically come over to hang out. I met Andrea, met Lana.
Awesome.
Great people. Great people. I held the line for Andrea yesterday. That was a pleasure.
Wow, Donald.
I held the line at lunch for Lana today. It was my pleasure. I don't expect any pay for it. I'm here because we want these people in the courtroom. They are our eyes and ears in the courtroom.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the expert is on the stand right now, the cell phone expert.
He was. I don't know if he was still on the stand or not, but when they come out to have a cigarette, they popped out to have a cigarette real quick, and I'm standing in the same place I was when they went in, and they come right over and start talking to me. She says, she come up and she says, I can tell you now.
Wow.
There was something plugged into Libby's cell phone when it was silent. She gave me the times, but I don't remember the times because I was stunned.
You were in shock.
Yes, I was stunned. And the only thing I could do is give them ladies a big hug and give Richard Allen's dad a big hug and say, this is what we needed.
Wow. Was he emotional too? I mean,
Yes.
I imagine he's been emotional for 2 years, probably, but
Yes, he said this has been the roughest 2 years of their lives.
yeah.
And I told him, when this is all over, I want to give Richard Allen a big hug and tell him just how much I support him.
Yeah. We all need to. We need to do something after all of this, and we need to just keep pressing.
Because truthfully, him and the family knows he's got supporters out here, but they just don't know the velocity
Right.
of the people.
Right. Yeah, I believe that. And there are more of us now than not. You know, I feel like we are not really the minority anymore.
And I'll tell you this, there is more and more people changing their minds as they come out of the courtroom.
Right.
I am seeing that, yes.
Wow. Wow, I wonder what, I don't even know what to say. I'm in shock. So that, I mean, Courtney, you know, Yellow Jacket, our friend was in here earlier because she is like detailed oriented. So she'll remember specific things that someone will say. Like she went to the hearings over the summer and she was like, there's a number of things that were said that had a lot of significance. And one of the things was that basically like the phone was accessed, human hands touched that phone, and everyone's like, oh, that's a conspiracy theory, but I mean,
now we know another device entered that phone.
Yep. Wow.
So in my eyes, that tells me that's where the picture of Libby or of Abby come from, and that's where the bridge guy video come from. That's what that kind of tells me. I know that's my thoughts. I'll put it that way.
And that makes sense. You know, it's like for so long, all of these folks, very brave, much braver than people have been saying things like that for a long time. You know, that the photo and the video, like there's something wrong with them. They're not, you know, they're not real. They're not, there's something off with them, that the phone had to have been, yeah.
My notice on the Abby picture, or the Libby picture, Abby picture. I'm sorry, I get them both mixed up. On the Abby picture, you look at the feet. The feet are different size than the ties. The feet are bigger than the ties. How does that happen?
There's so many things that now I'm like, I don't even know what to think anymore. And the way that they described, so, you know, the bridge guy video, like what we know about it now, like it doesn't make it doesn't make any sense.
Well, it tells me right now that we're a 50-50 chance of it being a fabricated video. It's 50-50. That's the only thing you can say. There's a 50% chance that it is, and there's a 50% chance that it ain't. We're caught in the middle right now until we hear more.
I just want you to know, Donald, that you have people, like everybody in here is in shock and so appreciative and as emotion, like just having all of the emotions. There's people that are in tears. There's people that are speechless. Like this is, it means just the significance of that information. I mean,
Well, like I said, when I heard it, I said, "Oh my God, who's online?" I gotta say this.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Here. So, I'm gonna put that in the chat. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank God, because we're sitting here talking about, I don't know. Oh, well, we were watching a video. It's
And
very
the firearm specialist today,
Mhm.
the bullet is no match.
Garbage.
The bullet is garbage.
You think the jury was receptive to the expert?
The jury has been receptive to about everything, from what I'm hearing.
Oh, I love to hear that. I really
The,
do.
the jury has been on point. I mean, I'm really surprised of how well on point this jury is.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the jurors stood up and said, "Let him finish,"
I heard that.
and pretty much shut everybody up. You know,
Yeah.
when a juror speaks up like that, that speaks mountains.
They're that to me says like frustration, outrage. It's validating, because how
Yes.
many of us would like to just yell at like Nick McClellan, like, just shut the fuck up, like shut up, like let them
Well,
speak.
actually, Mr. Baldwin did yell at him yesterday.
Good.
And like I said, he pretty much told him, "You can't have a double standard."
Right.
So, hey, I say this: speak your piece, boys. It's all worth it.
Donald, I'm going to run out really quick. I'm still listening, but we've got Luke on here who may have some questions.
All right.
So if you're gone when I get back, I can't even tell you how much we love and appreciate you. But if not, I'll see you in a minute.
All right, hon.
Hey, Donald.
Hello. Hey, Luke.
How's it going? How's it going?
Oh, good. That was the highlight of my week so far. That information right there.
An emotional moment by the sounds of it.
And like I said, guys, it's unbelievable. I knew there was a bombshell waiting, but I didn't know what it was until that.
Does it feel to you like this is the moment? This is the day?
Well, this is the day for the jurors to make the change. I believe the jurors to make the change to, I would say, totally innocent. I mean, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but from what I'm seeing in the questions and the juror speaking up like she did, they're tired of the prosecution's shit. Excuse my French.
Yeah, I heard about the juror kind of yelling at the prosecutor because she was frustrated with
Yeah, because they wasn't letting the guy speak. You know, they was trying to hurry him up and shut him up. Didn't work this time, guys. Didn't work.
Hey, who's you?
How's it going? Can you hear me okay?
Hey, Hoosier, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you, Donald?
Good, man. Good.
So how many of the hearings have you gone to, Donald?
I've been here since Monday.
Oh, wow.
I came over Monday and decided, well, don't have to work this week, so this little fat guy's gonna be here all week.
Do you think what do you get of the feeling in the room with the jury?
Well, I haven't been in the courtroom.
Oh, okay.
I elected to go in the courtroom because of the simple fact I can't keep my big mouth shut.
That's fair.
So, I mean, I would rather get people in that's going to give us the story than get myself in there and just be dead weight, basically.
I feel the same way. There's, like, as long as Andrea gets in, I'm good. It's like my standard.
Yesterday, I made sure Andrea got in after lunch, and today I made sure Lana got in after lunch. So I'm just making sure the right people get in after lunch.
It's awesome. Lana's awesome too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cracks me up.
Oh, dude, she is a hooting person too, man.
What was it she said?
She's a lot of fun.
Hey, Brad Weber, how'd it go? She like yelled.
Yeah, dude, I was standing there for that. Man, I'll tell you, I was rolling. And Brad Weber, he was making tracks. He was He was fast pacing it.
He has a. I don't know why I saw this picture, but he has like an amputated toe on his left foot.
Yeah, and who's your think about this, man? If he has a part of a missing toe, that would cause a gait.
Yeah.
Because you use your big toes to move. That would cause a gait.
That caught him like walking. It was
Yes.
interesting. I don't know. I don't want to accuse.
I mean, I'm not me. I don't want to accuse him either.
I
But
know. I get
it starts to add up.
It's weird.
Yes, it's very weird, but it adds up 110%.
I have an angry special guest. I'm gonna go grab real quick. Hold on.
Donald, can I ask you something? The source of this information about the thing that has been plugged into the phone, is that somebody you trust? Is that solid information?
That's as solid as information as you can get. That is from the investigators or the defense.
And it was relayed to you by somebody who heard it firsthand?
They heard it firsthand.
Oh my God, your cat, Donald. Who's showing his little kitten on the screen?
Yeah.
Kitties. I'm not a kitty fan, but I like kitties.
He's more popular than I am on the internet. It's fine.
But yeah, guys, I've been standing out here in this little pavilion all day, and watching people come in and out, and watching people do different things. And I've told the ladies from the defense that I'd be sitting out here the rest of the day. And if you can come out and give me more, come give me more. Because I'll take all you can get.
Well, we appreciate you forwarding that information on. You know, it shouldn't be kept there in the dark.
No, that information should be out, because that is crucial information. Very crucial. I couldn't hardly type because I was shaking so bad, guys. I'm sorry, I just couldn't hardly type.
I definitely voted out Rokita. Indiana, it doesn't. I don't know. We won't talk politics. It's weird. Indiana.
Yeah, I've done have my rant on that. I'm over that, but I'm more on the now. I think the prosecution is in trouble.
I think the prosecution's in trouble, even if they give a succinct, our final speech or whatever. Even if it's succinct and a solid timeline, I think they lost faith in the jury. Honestly, if I were them, I would have, not that I am a lawyer or anything, but I would have hit him with like first impressions mean a lot. And yeah, he summarized things, but I think he was like too, I don't know. He should have just went for it.
Yeah, well, I can see what they've done. They've just slowly debunked everything through the case so far.
Yeah, the defense has had to, because they go second, right? And
they've debunked everything as they went, and then as they've debunked things, they can introduce more things. Freak. But they can, they've took their due diligence to do it, and their time, because I see what they're doing.
Get this potato.
They're pretty much making the state look really bad, which they should. They should take it to the hill.
The state just didn't investigate as much as they needed to be.
The state didn't even do their due diligence, Bub.
Yeah.
They didn't do a third. They didn't do a third of their due diligence because they had a scenario. And that scenario, the prosecution stuck with. And the defense has picked that scenario apart, literally.
Well, I think their majors, they took a lot of suspects seriously in this case early on, including Brad Weber. And I think they just kept getting stuck on suspects along the way.
I don't think. I think when they come upon Richard Allen's deal, they got tunnel vision.
Yes, I agree.
Very much tunnel vision.
And they, you know, I think they. How do I put this nicely? I just think they pulled the trigger too quick on all of it. There
was some desperation at that point, I think, on their part.
Yeah, there was a lot of desperation because everybody was on their heels to solve this case. Instead, they took this route and they just made this case a debacle.
I wish they got the right person and it was solid evidence.
Well, and I've made that clear, to a lot of people. Even though I'm for Richard Allen's innocence, number one, I'm for the conviction of the right people for this.
Whoa.
Richard Allen's not your right guy.
Donald, are you looking at the screen?
What does it say? I can't read it very well.
All right. A former FBI digital evidence instructor testifies for the defense and says she believes wired headphones or some sort of auxiliary cord was plugged into Libby German's phone between 5:45 p.m. on February 13th, 2017 to 10:32 p.m. that same day.
See, that's what I was talking about. That's what they come up with, but I couldn't remember the times.
This is from the mainstream media.
Yep, that's from the mainstream media.
Your source was right.
Yep, my source was. Say what?
The lamestream media.
Yeah, the lamestream media.
So let's break it down. So who would have plugged in something into Libby's phone after 5:45 on that day?
Whoever the abductor was.
Oh, everybody's like,
why would they do that?
They done that to lead a narrative, to start the narrative of the video of Bridge Guy and the photo of Abby. That's the only thing that could have happened. Whatever they plugged in, downloaded that video and that picture. That's the only thing that could have happened. I mean, if you really think about it, that could have happened. That means when they found the girls, they was right on the people's heels. Because they found the girls after 9 o'clock.
So, now the story. People will make their own conclusions, but I guess it points to a certain direction, right? Because there's a lot of alternative theories in this case.
Oh yeah, there's a million alternative theories. There's a million alternative theories, but the main theory is starting to make sense now. We always thought that picture in that video was fake. At least I did. Now we know that that video and that picture could have been downloaded from another device.
Well, there's that. There's also the fact that somebody else was in control.
Yeah, somebody else was in control of the phone.
To have been in control of the phone, and that wasn't Rick Allen.
Nope, there was no way it was Rick Allen.
And all they have to do is have his wife say, "What time did you get home from work? And was Richard Allen there? And did he stay there?"
Yep.
Because to 10:32 p.m., that's an odd time to remove the auxiliary, the headphone plug.
Yep. Man, my chin was on this piece of wood right here when they come out and told me that. I was like, "Holy cow! Oh, you're kidding me, right?" Nope. I had to ask them twice. To be honest, that to me counts as the bombshell of the week.
People have been saying that the defense might rest its case tomorrow.
There is a possibility of that.
It sounds like it.
Because
if they've got that kind of evidence.
If you ask me, they've already proved their point, guys. They've already proved their point. They knew somebody had plugged into that phone. They knew it. And they waited for the right time, and they climbed all over the prosecution, and it beat them. That's the way I feel about it. Because the gun specialist today counted the bullet out. The bullet's nothing. So, I mean, like I said, it's got my attention.
Yeah, I think it's got everybody's attention now. We got to get Rick out of there.
Hey, the jury just leaving, people. So the courts are out for today. Well, they're not out, but the jury's leaving now to go back to their hotel. So court is done for today, except for any little bullshit they have at the end.
Yeah, the iPhone 6 had a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack.
Huh.
Absolutely. Somebody in the chat asked if it only had the lightning. Maybe I missed it, but yeah, it would have had the lightning and a 3.5 millimeter.
Yep.
Stereo. Or TRRS.
That's even more strange, though, because that's not like if it was the combined plug that modern iPhones have.
Like if
say
this,
it could be anything.
If
this
this
is
was
audio.
a serial killer, I would think he plugged in to listen to her music while he did this, and then like hid and escaped or whatever. Like
You got a dark mind, who's you?
That's true, but like what would be the purpose?
Yeah.
Well, I probably say it was plugged into another device.
Well, so the aux jack or the headphone jack and the data jack are two separate.
Yeah, I know that. But they could have went to the hotspot and hotspotted it and connected it that way also.
Yeah. Or AirDrop or something.
Yep.
You think the picture, maybe that's how the picture got on the phone, is what you're thinking?
That sounds legitimate to me. Because why else would it have been plugged in from 5:45 to 10:32? They was going through the phone. They was going through the phone looking for something. They didn't find it, and they downloaded the videos. That's my opinion.
Could have, or thought he deleted them. Something.
No, I think that was planted there for a reason. Somebody was making a statement.
There's been some chatter in the past about somebody going in there and deleting evidence or what they thought.
And Richard Allen just left. So court is out. Boy, oh boy. What an interesting day. The day was kind of boring to begin with. But boy, it jumped up in hype, I'll tell you.
Have you had a chance to go and see some of the sessions yourself?
No. I won't go in because the simple fact is I won't be able to keep my big mouth shut.
What's the atmosphere like in and around Delphi at the moment?
Well, the lines to get in have been kind of a shit show, which we expected that. The outside has been pretty mellow, really. I mean, there's been no real incidences or anything. It's just everybody's coming out and just gathering and talking a little bit. I mean, it's not real hectic and it's not real crazy. But I will just say it's interesting. I will say that. Okay, guys, I think I'm going to jump off of here because I'm going to find out what was going on. And if you guys are still on my way home, I will get back on.
Thank you
coming
so
and telling
much,
us.
Donald. You're amazing. You're our hero. We'll be here for a while, and if you are around, we would love to hear from you. If not, you are always welcome, my friend. You are like our hero.
Do you mind if I set up for a live shot in here so I'm not in the rain?
Go right on ahead, bro.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask since you've been here.
But yeah, guys, I'm going to jump off and see what I can find out and see what things are happening.
Be safe.
Yep, you guys too. Thank you.
That's wild.
So what the fuck?
So
That's crazy.
obviously somebody
Had the phone.
like if it was shut off,
He's doing
would
it
it
again.
still
Angela.
register it being plugged in? Like I don't understand why. Did they stick it in a Faraday cage bag?
Yeah, I think I was thinking this yesterday. Something like that.
So there was a study done. So Purdue is like one of the best schools in cyber forensics in the world, and one of their PhD students tested out a bunch of those devices, and what they found was a potato chip bag works the best, like one of the metal ones.
Right, because they're designed to they're thermoproof and they use metal in the lining. Right.
It's, I mean, the signal might come and go out there, but you can definitely, like Ron Logan, a couple days later on the news is chatting on his cell phone right out there, right next to the crime scene, no problem. So I don't understand why the phone, no messages came through to that after 4 in the morning, 4:33, 28 or something like that. Yeah.
I wonder if in the knowledge seed data that they've extracted, if they could determine if or when airplane mode was activated. It could be something like that.
Oh, absolutely.
It still doesn't answer the question why you'd put something in the 3.5 jack.
No, that's very strange. So if you ever want to block all signal from your cell phone, you can stick it inside of one of those metal foil potato chip bags, and it'll probably shouldn't say that.
Microwaves work as well, right?
Oh yeah, I bet it would, because it has to block the microwaves from exiting the chamber.
Yeah.
So yeah. Plus, that's what they do in the movies.
Yeah, or like the NSA or whatever. I mean, maybe we're reaching a little bit with that. It depends who the perps are or who the theoretical perps are in that scenario.
So, what time were we told that the phone stopped communicating with towers? Do we remember exactly? Or 5:45 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
The exact time that the phone was plugged into something. So, what did they plug it into something to block the?
Maybe.
How did it? So it at 5:45 it stops transmitting, and at 5:45 they're also saying that's the time period between 5:45 and 10:32 p.m. is when it was plugged into some kind of auxiliary, like something.
Yeah, up until 10:32, I think it was.
Yeah.
So it both stops transmitting a signal at 5:45 and starts, and is plugged into something. I don't know anything about this. I'm just like saying that.
DB's made an interesting comment there. If you want to highlight it, you can hook an antenna into the aux jack.
Mm-hmm.
A few comments back.
What would that?
Oh, like a Bluetooth connector that.
Yeah, I don't know about the internal wiring on an iPhone 6, but I guess it kind of makes sense. It's possible you could have some kind of device that is like a Faraday cage that goes into that jack, but I would have to do some Googling.
I can't believe that dropped and then they're done. Like,
who would have that knowledge though? That's crazy.
The 4 a.m. text flood is most intriguing to me, says Catastrophe.
15 texts. Little man.
Doesn't make any sense. Hi, Hoosier, by the way.
Hi. Good
to see you. Good to see you and Camper making a fuss.
He fits right in my hand, and it's like a fuzzy potato.
Uh-huh. Could it have been a charger that they plugged it into?
Aux jack is specific, or headphone jack.
Well, Kyla say. She said, oh man, Twitter's. We'll pull up Twitter in a second. We can see everybody unravel. Kyla says, wired headphones or some sort of auxiliary cord. Okay, so not a charger. It was the little circle aux cord.
Yeah.
Why?
I've just quickly checked. There is no device that would block the signal from the aux jack. So that's presumably something to do with audio. Which, when you were away, Hoosier suggested maybe the killer wanted to listen to Libby's Spotify playlist while he was killing her.
No, I don't like that.
An interesting theory.
Well, I'm like, okay, well, so I think that now where I stand on this case and what happened, I have no fucking clue. And I don't think that anybody knows what happened to those girls at all. And I think that they should probably start trying to find out.
Yeah, we're back to square one, I think.
So this was an FBI agent, but I didn't see the name.
Eldritch?
Was that her name?
Yeah. They have Stacy Eldritch.
Okay. I'm gonna pull up. I bet the Wish log probably has something, right?
That's what I'm looking at, yeah.
Okay. So let's see. I'll read it. Court is back in session. The state says the next witness is a phone expert, and they request. You think that the defense has been doing a disinfo now just to throw it, just because the media sucks so bad and they're such little snake lizard people? Like nobody. We thought Walla was coming back yesterday. We thought they were going to be done, and now we're like nobody knew that the FBI phone person was this afternoon. Like you think that they're just like
keeping them guessing?
Yeah.
Calling audibles, maybe.
Yeah, or just telling them one thing and doing another. You know what I mean? I don't know. Phone expert.
They're on a whole other level of lawyering. So yeah, I mean,
it's been really impressive actually. And those guys must be exhausted from the last 2 years, but they've completely run the show.
So, oops. It says that the state says that next defense witness is a phone expert, and the state requested that 2 previous witnesses that examined Libby's phone be able to sit in for rebuttal purposes. The jury's back. The defense calls Stacy Eldridge. Eldridge is an expert in computer information management. She worked for the FBI for 10 years as a forensic examiner and later a senior examiner. She also worked as an instructor on digital evidence. Eldridge says that she left the FBI and is now a licensed private detective in Nebraska. She tells the jury she used to have a license in Celebrate, the software used to forensically examine cell phones. She says that she is a consultant now and an adjunct at 2 universities. Eldridge tells the jury she testified 3 times for the government and she owns a business called Silicon Prairie Cyber Services. Eldridge tells the jury that they're paying her $300 to testify. She's worked 65 hours of examination for this case alone and 15 hours prepping for testimony. She reviewed the October 2017 cell phone extraction, as well as the Celebrate report and the report from Chris Cecil. She also said that she reviewed Cecil's deposition. She tells the jury that ISP used Celebrate, Axiom, and other forensic tools to examine Libby's phone. Eldred says that she primarily used Axiom and used 2 others. She explains to the jury that every tool can do the work a little differently or display it differently. She tells the jury that an extraction is getting all the data off a phone so you can examine it later. Eldred says that everything she examined came from ISP. She says there are 3 level 6 extractions you can do. Each one of them pulls different amounts of info. She explains that logical extraction covers the basic user info, and that's what Libby's phone had in early 2017. Eldridge says ISP had the capacity in early 2017 to do a full extraction of Libby's phone, but only did it in October of that year. She tells the jury this caused issues and caused the loss of a specific piece of data called the current power log. She tells the jury that log only stays saved in between a phone being turned all the way off and on. Wow. So they literally, because they didn't fucking preserve the phone the way they were supposed to or extract it, it's gone. What fucking idiots these dudes are. Dude, that's so fucking avoidable. Avoidable.
You know what? You're right, but I think the defense has been able to find ways around.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, now, but I mean, like, imagine.
Yeah.
Oh God. Okay. She tells the jury that Eldridge says that log can also say if the phone went into airplane mode. She says that her priority was figuring out what was going on with the phone at 4:34 a.m. on February 14th to make the phone start receiving multiple text messages. Judge Gold calls for a sidebar after the prosecution says that they had not examined an exhibit showing Eldred's report on Libby's phone's database. First, they said they had not examined it, and then they said they have no objection. Eldridge leaves the witness stand and goes to a screen showing the report. She explains that many of the columns and rows the reporter describes. She explains many of the columns and rows the reporter describes the exhibit as similar to an Excel spreadsheet. Eldridge says that she generally agrees with the state's expert examination of the timeline of Libby's phone, but there are things that she does not agree with. She says she does not agree with some of the times, some of the texts, calls, and FaceTimes that were delivered between the 13th and 14th of February. Eldridge tells the jury there were times on the 13th and 14th that the phone was not connected to a cell tower. She says that the last time it connected on the 13th was 5:45, and then it reconnected at 4:33 on the 14th. She tells the jury she reviewed cell phone pings from AT&T. She shows AT&T historical precise location logs. The state objects and points out that Eldridge did not have training on the network capability in Carroll County. They say the log isn't complete and Eldridge is not qualified. And then that's where the blog ends. So
yeah. You know, who would you listen to if you were a juror? That's the question. So you've got Sergeant Blocker, or whatever the hell his name is. And you've got this lady who's insanely credentialed and former FBI.
Right. Exactly.
And they're presenting different stories. Well, they overlap a great deal, but they're different. Who are you going to listen to?
Definitely the woman. But also, definitely, I mean, I think that just in general, when people hear the word FBI, and when you have a former FBI or like just anyone who has worked in some capacity with the FBI, I feel like for jurors that probably holds some significant weight. And why can't I find? I mean, not to say that the FBI, like, I know the FBI are just like they're whatever. But I mean, do you think that the jury just automatically?
Yeah, I think culturally that they're more respected.
How did they get in? Well, because she's former FBI. Like, how did they get?
Yeah, because she wasn't on the case.
DB, quit your job at Chipotle, please, because we could probably really use some DB insight here. Yeah, so nobody's reporting yet, aside from that Kyla. That's it.
You know why? Because they're probably panicking about how the hell they're going to spin the story.
How are we going to spin this? How are we going to spin it? Unbelievable. We're updating our blog with more info from that testimony, and that's it. That's all we got. Man. So regardless, somebody handled the phone, and Rick was not. I mean, he wasn't there. I mean, he was never there, but he certainly wasn't there when that happened. Oh, what are y'all doing? Thank you, Hoosier.
Thank you.
Camper donated to Gray Hughes.
He's the cutest, but he's kind
incredible.
of really rebellious towards his father.
Really?
Yeah, just
this
biting me
new?
and donating to Gray Hughes, and he said some racist shit too, and I had to correct him. He's napping off his time.
Racist?
He
In
said
your under
he
your
only
roof?
likes stripy kitties.
Oh my god.
I was like, man, no, not in this house.
Unbelievable.
I told you, HCC, you wanted to act like I was lying about Camper. I told you. He's got bad tweets, bro.
DB.
What's up?
But
I
he's napping. Look.
Oh my god. Hi,
that.
Camper. He's just
Camper, you're fake.
no. Oksana, I love you. This sucks. I mean, it sucks. It's like I'm having contradictory emotions right now. I'm having a lot of relief and a lot of like anger and sadness.
DB, did you find anything about what can go in a 3.5mm jack that other than audio equipment?
Well, I mean, there's lots of devices, especially in 2016 or 2017, whenever the SE was released, that are for auxiliary-based cell phones, and basically the antenna can be extended via the aux cord because the antenna is grounded to the phone. That's something that they started doing back then. They have a different internal antenna than older cell phones, so I really haven't had the chance to look at every single device, but an auxiliary cable can send power and communicate serially through a serial connection, not a digital connection. But so those of you who have seen, when you're getting a haircut or you're going to have a cheeky little coffee and they pull out that square device, that could be either paired through Bluetooth or but that's also being powered. So it's really hard to say, but I've put some feelers out and have about 50 tabs open that I'm going to get to here in a second.
Just 50 or just 50 dedicated to this alone?
No, just 50 dedicated to this question.
Okay,
when I first read that tweet.
Excellent. Cool.
Probably a lot going on. So I'm going to go read this before my computer crashes by.
Goodbye.
Report back to us soon, please.
Yes, of course.
Luke said, okay, but come back soon, DB. We'll be here.
Fuck off.
Are we codependent?
Yeah, of course.
Are we a little codependent? Hammy would like to know how it's possible that Hoosier Cold Cases is aging backwards. And I would like to second that question. What are you doing?
I don't know.
Elderberry?
Well, I can't say it on YouTube.
Okay, that's fair enough. Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
But there's a never mind.
I kind of want to show that clip of Dutch Frank where he's like, "You redheaded fucking Satanist," but I don't. But I'll crash my computer if I try. So
that's what.
Brad Weber just left. Oh, yep, there he is. Brad Weber just left. Brad Weber, how'd it go? Brad Weber, did you do it? Brad Weber, did you do it? Woo! All right, guys. See you next.
Kills me.
I think she's sleep deprived, man. She's got to be right.
welcome to anyone who just joined. We are
I'm a redhead and I avoid the sun. And then I've been losing weight by doing low carb and keto.
Yeah.
And
and good for you. You've lost what, 60 pounds this year, right? You were saying?
Yeah.
Right.
I still kept the junk in the trunk. No, I don't.
Excellent. Thank God. I was actually worried when you said that you lost weight. I was like, we didn't talk about that. We didn't all discuss that as
we didn't agree on this.
Yeah, we did not agree on that. But as long as the junk is safe, we're fine.
Good.
We're so sick. Very sick here.
Look at this.
He wanted to say something important as well. Damn it.
Who?
Hoosier. He was saying something, and then we
Oh, I'm
interrupted
sorry.
him
I
about
interrupted. I do that. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Hoosier.
Oh no, it's gone. I don't remember it all. It's okay.
I ruined it. He sacrificed the others in camper's litter.
No.
Nuh-uh.
My son found him in the middle of his grandparents' friggin' abandoned in the middle of the garden, and him and his friends like drove and got like little bottles and milk and kept him alive, and then like he found that I'm a nice warm bed.
Yeah.
And so now he owns me. And
yeah, our friend Vladimir says Hoosier is the Tiger King. Fabulous.
Whatever gets the clicks and views, right? I'm just kidding.
So I don't know what to think. I wonder why the state didn't like spend the that was a pretty quick conclusion, I would say, to the that bomb drop, and then the day is over. And
So the state would have known about this prior to the trial, because there is an obligation. It's a lower obligation, but there's some obligation on the part of the defense to.
They're not reading anything, though. They're not even deposing people. Like, maybe they wouldn't even know how to interpret the report. Like, is that possible?
Probably. Well, I mean, yeah, with that bunch, it probably is true. So, but let's theorize they did read it and understood it. They still didn't drop the charges. They still went to trial. Why did they do that? And then the next question is, how do we answer the question of where was Rick Allen between 5:45 and 4:33?
Oh, they know where he was.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't there.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Luke.
I'm just saying that's going to be the next round of bullshit that we have to deal with.
So if they present a theory of the case and they're certain about it, and then something like this comes up, their entire theory is called into question. I mean, they didn't do their job. They didn't do their due diligence. And like, if I'm a juror, I'm like, I don't give a fuck. You don't like. I don't need to see where he was. I need to see like why y'all like. That's how I feel. I'm like, I haven't seen anything proving that he was ever there. So, like, can we all go home to our families now?
Well, there's a procedure for this. A motion for directed verdict, which goes like this: if the defense has irrefutable evidence right now, this minute, that they didn't have yesterday, say, of Rick Allen's innocence, then they can ask the court. They can file a motion that the judge orders the jury to come to a specific verdict, or verdict of innocence in this case.
Right.
So obviously, up till now, that kind of move would have been flaky, risky.
Right. Right.
But with this, I mean, does this change that? Because if there is rock solid evidence of where Rick was in that time frame, then it's arguable that he shouldn't spend another minute where he is.
Well, but they do know. I mean, yes, right. I agree with you, and they do know they have the answer to that, and I imagine will present it. But the other thing I was thinking, and I'm already seeing it, is that people are going to immediately start to talk about all the reasons and all the things other than, being plugged in that could make the aux jack or whatever it's called, like, show that it was like plugged, plugged in or whatever. Like, there's going to be all kinds of reasons that people can discount that. And that's like, okay, that's fine. But what about the 7 other things about the cell phone that are not consistent with the timeline? That, yeah, you can also suggest alternative theories for all 7 of those things. But like, isn't the more likely scenario that like their theory, the state's theory about what happened and where the phone was, and like, it's just not looking like the most likely scenario?
The mental gymnastics they would have to do would have to answer for Alan firstly kidnapping the girls, taking them somewhere, plugging something into the phone at 5:45, then some hours pass, and then at 4:33 he drops them back off at the deposit site, and all of this happens without his wife noticing, without being caught on a camera, without any other evidence. You know, like that's the kind of mental gymnastics you'd have to do to make it fit.
I wonder if some new, like an updated version of Axiom and Cellbrite is what revealed more of this data. But the prosecution would have had to have known about this, right? And they just chose to not mention it.
Yes and no,
It's
I
crazy.
think. I mean, because so if they were just given the new report, like the defense, much like the state threw 8 billion like files and papers and documents and like
Good point.
digital shit at the defense and didn't explain or label or like any of it, they just said go fish. I feel like the defense could very well have, because we already know in the past 2 days we've learned that they told the state knew that they were bringing in Dr. Polly Westcott, and they've known that for over a year. The state learned it months ago. They never deposed her, and they never even had her send her report to their, to WALA to review and opine on. So they didn't do that. They didn't bother doing that, and they could have. They hadn't. There was another one that that I thought of that they hadn't done, something like recently that we learned of. And so who's to say? I mean, if the defense handed them this new report with like the most recent or updated version of whatever softwares, because there's like updates, and then they do extractions, and then they'll do another extraction, it'll show something different because there's a newer update. I don't know how the fuck it works, but so maybe the defense provides that, and it has this they don't know how to interpret it because they're idiots, or they don't bother. Like maybe they gave the state the answers, but who's to say that the state even read it or looked at it or even knew how to interpret it? That's kind of where I land on it.
Yeah, and also if you read that, well, at least going by that blog post you just read out, before she got to that part about the auxiliary port, she said she largely agrees with Blocker's findings. So maybe they just got to that and were like, oh well, whatever, this is nothing.
We're not going to hear about those 2 phones that were on the geofence. I guess they're not. Yeah, I imagine they wouldn't want to waste. They must feel like they have enough to not really go like balls to the wall about the doing offers of proof and trying to fight her ridiculous, the geofence ruling and everything. Like they must just feel like they have enough, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Rex
I think
says
the writing's on the wall.
Yeah. Problem is, this is what I've seen. A wet phone can cause the phone to falsely detect headphones even if none are plugged in. I would like, yes, there are, well, that's what I was saying. There are like alternative explanations as to why it might show or detect something and show like an erroneous, whatever. But I imagine that this expert would have had to, like, I don't know, check for that and explain that. And maybe, I don't know, we need more information, but given the fact
that cross-examination is where they get their chance right now, probably, or maybe it's already happened. The state is crossing this woman, and if they can't ask that question and get a satisfying rebuttal in from that, then it's finished.
Yeah, I need to do like a scrolling up thing at the bottom for people that are like just joining. Where's that tweet? Where's that tweet?
Also, like the water theory, I don't know. Like I know what people are saying with that theory, that sometimes a phone thinks it's got earphones in when it doesn't. But like, I think in the digital forensics output, I think it's going to be more specific than that.
Right, I think so too. I think that they probably have more than just like a. Boone is digging a hole, trying to dig a hole through the couch. So that's it. So she put out an update, like one tweet, and then said more later, and then no more later.
Typical mainstream media. Shall I call Bob and ask him?
Yeah, I don't think the water theory holds water, to be honest. There's too many good luck, Looney. There's too many factors and too many variables and things that are occurring with the phone and it connecting and disconnecting and showing this and showing that and the video and the way that the phone is staged. There's too many factors for me to just say, oh, it was wet and it just then it dried and it I'm not buying it.
So my wife is excellent at drowning phones, getting them wet. And back then that was it. It was done. I mean, yeah, you could put it in rice and hopefully something, but most of the time, I mean, that never worked for us. I heard maybe it worked for other people, but I don't see a phone drying out.
The iPhone 6 wasn't waterproof as well, if I remember correctly. I think it was the 7 or something that.
Well,
that
it was
the
a
first
while
one.
before they had waterproof.
Yeah.
Normal. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not there's that to me.
Well, I keep going back to Ron Logan's phone being in the area around that same time. Was he dicking around at the crime scene or something? Or I mean, he doesn't have to be the killer, but I'd still like to know why his phone was in the area.
This is one of those gaslights where the most logical explanation for Ron Logan's phone, and they were specific, they had specific location data because he sent and received 2 text messages at 7:45 and 10:45 p.m.
Which since 2013 federally had to contain very accurate GPS and tower information, everything it could. Each text has to have that in it.
So we've got pretty precise location of Ron Logan's cell phone at 7:45 and 10:45 at the crime scene, basically. Not to say that the phone or the girls were there, but he's there. And yet.
Well, in the phone data really does point to them getting in a car on the private drive.
I agree.
And it's I don't know, or an ATV or some kind of moving vehicle, because moving, you're not walking. Yes, you could walk down that hill quickly. I guess that's all weird too. The elevation changes right for the private drive, about a 20-foot 2-staircase change in elevation in a minute time. But 66 steps is kind of a lot if you took little steps going down, trying not to slide or fall. I could see that.
I like this comment a lot. So much in this case gets waved away and afforded the most innocuous explanations like the DNA, unless they can use it against Richard Allen. Right. And I think the jury has picked up on that based on the questions they asked. The van question that Oksana reported last night, why?
Good point.
The van thing, why did you wait until a confession came out about the van that you knew about before you looked into the van? Why, and it's because, well, we couldn't tie the van to Richard Allen, so we didn't have any reason to look into the van. And it's huh? That doesn't make sense.
You should highlight Meow's comment. It's a very good point. They would know even if it had dried out after being in water, they would still know it had contact with water.
She has Betsy Blair going to the library. She thinks Betsy was with the girls. Okay. Ugh. Okay. Doing what? So, what if they got into the car of someone that they knew and plugged it in to listen to music?
Yeah. That's a nice, simple theory.
We saw that. So yeah, Libby's phone was charging in the car on the way over. I have a lot.
Are there any pictures of Libby with earphones plugged into her phone?
I don't know. Update on Wish. Okay. Yeah, wow.
What does it say?
I'm about to share it. I think this is where we left off. Like here. Okay. Defense attorney, yes. Jennifer Auger says the page admitted into evidence is the one pertinent to the investigation, but there are several hundred more. Gull admits the exhibit over the state's objection. Eldridge says that Libby's phone was last connection time was February 14th at 4:33, and before that, 5:45 p.m. on February 13th. She says the phone was not using data in between those times. Cecil's report said that there were messages coming through during that time frame. Eldridge says that there is evidence that the phone did not have messages delivered in between those times. Eldridge says that some of the messages did have timestamps in between the two times, but they weren't delivered. She says that voicemails between the two times were not delivered until February 17th. Auger asked Eldridge, I don't know, yeah.
17th.
Voicemails that were sent to the girls and left on Libby's phone were not delivered to the phone until February 17th. Auger asked Eldridge to explain what a ping is. She said it's a technical way to have one device see if another device is there. She says AT&T is repeatedly trying to ping Libby's phone after 5:44 p.m. on the 13th, but it's not successful until 4:33 a.m. Eldridge says she doesn't know why the phone did not ping in that time frame, even though it was allegedly under Abby's back and stationary. She says, I can only conclude that something external happened to the phone, that it could have been moved, blocked by metal, or blocked from the tower. Eldridge is asked about the phone's health data. She says she agrees with what Cecil found about the data on the steps. She says iPhones will not log steps if you're in a car or if the phone is powered off. Eldridge says she now knows that 5:45 p.m. on February 13th to 10:32 p.m. that night, the phone had wired headphones plugged in. She demonstrates headphones being plugged into an iPhone 6.
Okay, so it was headphones.
Well, she says it could have also been an aux cord for a car that was plugged into the phone. I can't think of any explanation that does not involve humans.
Yeah. So, you know how complicated this case was already, right? Every year it's got more complicated. This is going to add so much fuel to the conspiracy theories and potential theories that are going to continue long after Rick is out of prison. They will say RA took them somewhere, Amanda, but I don't think that's a very robust theory.
They can't keep moving the goalpost out. They're like across the fucking universe. You can't. Rick, they know that they can account for Rick at various periods after, like, in that evening, and like it's just they have a theory and that's their theory, and if their theory like is altered or has to be manipulated or changed in any significant way, like, oh, by the way, he came back, it's not, then your case is, you can't just like, you can't do that to a jury with like their own brains. This isn't the mainstream media and gaslit Stockholm Syndrome Carroll County. These are jurors who have their own brains and can think for themselves and who already hate your guts, apparently, because one of them had an outburst. Like, they're not like it's over. Like, it's done.
Yeah.
Like, fucking figure out what the fuck happened that night.
Please.
For fuck's sake. Yeah, you got normal people on the jury. Yeah.
It's so important to keep data standardized and organized. And they had no fucking clue what they were doing. And it was too many chiefs, not enough Indians or something, or they didn't care. Or it's so frustrating.
Well, as soon as the defense rests, they're going to start closing arguments, right? And that can go on for a few days, or not. And there's no obligation on either side to argue. The state goes first, then the defense goes, and then the state gets to go again. I imagine both sides will do it, will argue. It's going to be very uncomfortable for Nick.
The state
because
goes.
he's got no argument.
So the state gives
The
a
state-
closing argument, and then the defense gives a closing argument. And
yeah,
then,
and then the state comes back and has another say. That's in a specific thing to Indiana.
they get the final say?
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
What the fuck is wrong with this fucking place? Seriously, what the fuck is wrong with this place? It's like, why does this place exist? Why do they do things like this?
I think our friend Donald was right. It's everywhere. These same problems exist everywhere in the United
Where have I been? The state always closes the case. Always, in every case, they get the last word. What's wrong with me?
The rules vary by state. I think generally overall, DB is right. It
could be, yeah. I
Are you doing a gaslight onto me? Everyone's telling me that's normal. Well, then what the fuck is wrong with? Well, then that's stupid, and that shouldn't be like that. Why does the state get the last word? What's the legal reasoning for that?
I think that the philosophy of it is that the state is bringing the charge, so therefore the state gets to open, and the state gets to close, and everything else has to go in the middle. Whether that's correct or not, I don't know. But
I don't think the state should. I think the state should have the hardest job, and yet we we continuously see, especially in this case, but I mean in general, the state is given every. I mean, they're carried across the finish line in most instances. It's so stupid.
Yeah, I agree. But however, having said that, imagine how difficult this closing argument is going to be for McClelland. McClelland. He's going to have to stand up for hours and hours and hours and try to make something out of this pile of shit.
He's going to make a snowman.
Yeah. Exactly. And then it's going to disappear in front of everybody's eyes.
It's just a couple of sticks and a carrot and a hat and 2 pieces of coal.
And Sarah Carboy is going to come and run it over with her car. And
Yeah, we gotta find that guy that she clipped and stabbed.
That's Bridge Guy. That's poor innocent Bridge Guy who's done nothing. Clearly.
Did you see? Donald said he's driving home, and he'll be back tomorrow. He is amazing.
Yeah, he broke the news here on this channel.
There's people are these. All of you are our people are just so cool. This case is really people care about it. And I wish that I could just show that we could show Loretta or whoever is in charge of actually corralling this crazed tyrant of a woman on the stand masquerading as a judge. I wish that we could just show her or show people in charge calling the shots in Indiana. Do you understand that your citizens care so deeply about this case? That's not voyeurism. That's not just that's not perverted that's authentic.
It's not bloodlust.
Right. That's not bloodlust. That's genuine care for fellow man. And why must they constantly malign and pervert and do a gaslight? It's why? It's frustrating.
They're going to do another gaslight because
Loretta.
What? That's her name. I mean, Miku. Yeah. Come on. When Alan is acquitted, you're going to hear a lot of people like her, like politicians, say, things that are going to really piss you off, and they're going to go back on the kind of messaging that they were putting out before, they're going to celebrate his acquittal, basically, in subtle ways. And that's going to be gaslighty. Wow.
There's a puma. That's a puma. Oh, my goodness. Did you hear that? Yeah, the jury's not
Is he okay?
at all. Yeah, I know. If we don't hear from Hoosier in a minute, we're going to...
Yeah. Sweetie doesn't like anything. Not cats, not humans. She tolerates me, but I have to pet her a certain way. And then if I deviate, she runs
Okay, I mean, I can relate to that.
anyway,
So
that's fair.
Yeah, that's fair. I get. She's so me, man. Is Hammy any? There's Hammy. That's so me. Camper hates Loretta too. Wow.
You should tell Camper about the 3.5mm orcs and what they found today.
He said, "Case over." He's gonna donate the rest of his Bitcoin to Gray Hughes and vote for Elon Musk, apparently. But
Eldridge is a former FBI and something. God damn it, Wish. I don't care about that. She's a private consultant now, but she was with the FBI for 10 years, so I feel like I can call her a former FBI something. Agent? But she wasn't an agent, she just worked with the FBI. Or maybe she was a former FBI agent. What about an auxiliary to USB adapter? Oh, brilliant, Deanna. I can't click it, woman.
Yeah.
I'll look in let's see. What is it so I can look it up, Mama? Oh, private chat, duh. Duh.
to answer my friend Lipsha, I think they're just protecting themselves, their mistakes. But if it ended up being a cop and one of their friends that did it, at this point, who knows? Who knows? It's all very, very strange.
I think it's this combination of malice and incompetence that we were talking about the other night.
Yeah.
In different places at different times, because this story is a spectrum. It started in 2017, and it's probably that combination of malice and incompetence has probably changed shape a lot over the years.
Turning to other news now on this election day. To the north in Delphi, the Delphi murders trial. Multiple people taking to the witness stand today,
including a digital forensic examiner who shared brand new information in court this afternoon.
Samantha Johnson is heading up our coverage live in Delphi tonight. And Sam, I know it's been a long day for you. You've been in the courtroom all day today. Let's start with this new digital information that came out today.
Yeah, and Anne and Felicia, this is the most new information, too, I can give you. It comes from a former FBI forensic examiner. Her name is Stacey Eldridge. She was on the stand today for almost 2 hours inside the courtroom. She says she reviewed digital data pulled by Indiana State Police from Libby German's phone around the time the girls went missing. But this examiner says she went digging and she did her own data, too, and she found even more information. So she says using the same data state police had access to years ago, she discovered someone inserted a headphone jack into Libby's phone at 5:45 p.m. on February 13th. That headphone jack was then removed at 10:32 that same night. And Eldridge says just milliseconds before the headphone was inserted, Libby's phone was ringing. So what's the big deal here? We know Libby's phone reportedly stopped tracking movement around 2:32 on the 13th. And we've known the phone was not responding to cell towers from 5:45 on the 13th until the early morning hours on the 14th. But this information about the headphones is the first time we've ever heard about someone else possibly interacting with Libby's phone. Now, the defense went on to say if the phone was stationary, if it was at the crime scene this whole time, why would it disconnect from cell service for hours and then suddenly reconnect at 4:33 in the morning the next day? Well, Eldridge said she found no digital evidence of what could have gone wrong, and she suggested something external happened. She said either the phone was moved or the signal was blocked. Now, today inside the courtroom, the Carroll County prosecutor, Nicholas McLeland, he pushed back a little bit. He said, had you ever been to the crime scene? Do you know what the cell service was like the day that we are talking about this data, February 13th, 2017, alluding to the fact that they likely had poor cell service, and maybe it's more feasible that the phone just lost service for all of those hours too. Anne-Marie and Felicia, one of the most important topics that came out of today's testimony from Allen's attorneys.
So that's really interesting because it seems like you'd have to have some expertise to block the signal from a phone, wouldn't you, Sam?
Yeah, and she was asked about that too. The prosecutor asked, well, wouldn't someone have to have some kind of device or some kind of tool with them to help block that? And she said, yeah, they likely would. So there was a little bit of pushback in some of her testimony earlier today. It's also important to mention that was just one of the witnesses the defense called today. We also heard from a psychiatrist who specializes in solitary confinement, memory, and false confessions. And then we heard from a forensic scientist who works in firearm and crime scene reconstruction, a few of the very key issues that have been brought up time and time again in this case. We'll break down what else we've learned coming up.
You see how quickly they've changed their tune. Like, all of the hot air has just left the case. That was WTHR, which, I mean, yesterday they were telling complete lies about what had happened in the courtroom.
Is this
Was
one? Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
And now they're they're presenting the alternative, which is that the state's case is nonsense.
So the phone was ringing milliseconds before it had either an aux cord or headphones plugged into the port, whatever it is, which would have stopped the ringing. So Brian Bunner and Cecil, here's more info. So Brian Bunner and Cecil Googled during the break about iPhone troubleshooting, and Cecil testified to it in court today at 3:45 p.m. Gold said that Google isn't hearsay. He didn't even know what site he was on. Cecil said, I just Googled lots of sites. And then the defense just ripped him apart. Do you use Google for all your research?
Nice.
Or do you peer review?
Are you fucking insane, dude?
Is everything on the internet true? No. Accurate? No. Oh, and Abby's phone, Libby's phone was handled twice, not one time after 5:43, not just once after 5:43 p.m. 2 times the jack was used to insert headphones. So headphones were inserted at 5:45 p.m. and taken out at 10:32 p.m. So that sounds like they know for a fact this was a deliberate, like, plugged in, unplugged. How would that have happened at 5:45 if they had already crossed the creek at whatever the fuck time and were already dead and on the ground and he was out of there by 3:50, whatever the fuck? That doesn't make sense either. Your water theory's trash. Your water theory's trash. So what if, okay, well, now this kind of just makes me think of, so why would you plug headphones in as opposed to just like turning the phone off or like switching it to vibrate? I mean, if the goal was to make the phone stop making noise, but they were calling it.
I don't think it was for that. I think it was to listen to something on the phone.
This is so weird. Okay, I got another DB.
They did it. Kay says they did it to silence the ringer. I don't buy that, because you can. I can remember enough to remember that you can set your phone up in a way where having earphones in didn't stop the ringer necessarily.
So so I'm doing a disinformation. I'll take that part off.
I mean, it's a fair question, but
right.
I don't think.
Okay, let me play this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Luke. Go ahead.
No, I'm done.
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not, I would want you to finish your thought. would hate to do an interrupt up upon you.
I can live with it.
Okay.
I think I made the point. Just play the video.
Are you sure you don't want to sit here awkwardly for another few seconds?
I would love to, actually.
Okay, and then I'll play the video.
Can we unpack this for a minute? What is it? Why do you love interrupting so much? Paul DB comes on this show every day, and he works really hard with his
another
little
top
projects.
headline, day 16 of testimony in the Delphi murders trial.
Yeah, the defense is working to poke holes in the prosecution's case against accused killer Richard Allen, who's charged in the murders of Abby Williams and Libby German. Fox 59's Russ McQuaid just got out of the courtroom here within the last few minutes, and he joins us live outside the Carroll County Courthouse with the latest. Russ?
Dan, we've got some significant information that has just come out in the last couple hours, and that testimony came from a former FBI forensics expert, an examiner who spent her career at the FBI looking at telephone data. She looked at Libby German's phone, the one she shot. She used her cell phone to shoot video of Bridge Guy following her and Abby on the Monon High Bridge on February 13th, 2017. We had already heard that phone never moved after 2:33 p.m. That would be approximate time when the prosecution says that Libby and Abby were being assaulted, perhaps even killed. That's why that phone didn't move. This FBI expert, her name is Stacey Eldridge, former FBI expert, said that she did an analysis of the Indiana State Police examination of that cell phone data, and she determined that while the phone was not moving between 2:33 and 5:45 p.m., there was intermittent signals there. It was going in of signals, going out of signals. Remember, this is a rural area. If you've ever been, you know the signals go in and out. Here's what's new and significant. While the phone was not necessarily recording any data, it would still record its mechanical manipulation. She said for the first time in court today that when a phone call came in, I'm assuming from the family looking for Libby that afternoon at 5:45 p.m., within a split second, somehow a headphone jack was plugged in to that receptor on that cell phone. That, of course, would mute any volume, any audio coming out of that phone. And then that jack was unplugged at 10:33 that night. And then that phone remained inoperative until 4:33 the next morning. We have never heard this. We had heard that the phone was inoperative, but we never heard there was actual physical manipulation of it. The prosecution is trying to push back on that, claiming that the phone was found under a shoe under Abby's body on the north bank of the creek the next day. At that time, the phone was totally powered down. It's assumed the battery had died on it, and it wasn't until a couple days later that phone was powered back up, and detectives would then be able to receive information from that phone. This former FBI analyst said if Indiana State Police did a better job at the start of downloading the data, she could tell us even more about it. Earlier in the day, we heard from a Harvard-trained psychiatrist who said Richard Allen's confessions while in prison could very likely have been a result of his solitary confinement. This doctor, Dr. Stuart Gressman, said that he was an expert on the impact of solitary confinement has on inmates. And he says when an inmate is locked up, and this was a jury member asked this question, if an inmate is locked up from 6 to 12 months in solitary confinement, do they develop psychoses? The doctor said yes. And of course, from that psychoses came what the doctor said could be false confessions. And then finally, the jury also today heard from one of the defense witnesses who is an expert in ballistics technology. He says that when the bullet, the unspent bullet, was found at the crime scene, was taken to the Indiana State Police crime lab, and they couldn't get the results matching that bullet with Richard Allen's gun, so they changed the rules. They then, instead of injecting the bullet out of the gun, they fired the gun, which didn't happen that day by the creek, but in the lab, they fired the gun. That's how they got the results, matching the bullet to the gun. He says just by simply firing that gun, you're doing an apples to oranges comparison, and that's why the comparison, the defense hopes, that proves that Richard Allen's gun was at the crime scene is negated. I'm Russ McQuaid reporting live in Delphi.
The prosecution tried to counter that by saying, by vaguely pointing and gesturing at a weather report saying, but it was unseasonably warm that day. Russ looks like this is the hardest words he's ever had to say.
For sure. Where's Bob? Where's Bobby Siegel to come and eat shit? We need to watch that. I was just reading
Oh.
about microphones you can use in a 3.5
Yeah.
aux port. So it could have been. I mean, it's a weird scenario, but it could have been a microphone that they plugged in to record something.
Yeah, I want to see these. We've got jury questions on Wish. So this is where we left off. So 309, he's cross-examining. She says this is the first time she's testified about cell phone extraction, other than in July. She got a rough location on where the bodies were found and where the phone was found. She didn't go to the crime scene. The phone was in and out of service before 5:45. It could be and she says it could be an explanation that Libby's phone was just hopping in and out of service and got service at 4:33. McClellan asked Eldridge if the phone would have had to be moved to plug in headphones. He says if it could have registered in the health data. Eldridge says that could be the case, but she didn't test it. She says there also could have been a signal blocker like metal in a building. On redirect, Eldridge says that she reviewed the most important info in the number of hours she had. Auger asked her if the FBI ever did a drive study, which is a study that includes driving around to see what signal you get in one places. Auger asks if the FBI knew how to do this in 2017, and Eldridge says theoretically. Eldridge tells the jury that in order to plug in an auxiliary cable, the phone would have to be moved. She says the phone would not have had to log movement if it was powered off after 4:33 a.m. At 3:35 p.m., McClellan starts cross-examining again. Eldridge says that it takes a little bit of movement for a phone to start logging movements. The jury asked the following questions. 1, did you ever write your own timeline? And Eldridge said, no, not enough time. 2, could any of this be related to Libby's iPad? And Eldridge says they were not synced. 3, would water impact movement? Eldridge says no, water would not impact the port. There you have it. 4, can you tell if the phone was on silent or vibrate? Eldridge says no. 5, could you review Allen's historical location timeline if he was using a Ting phone? She says that she could if it was available. 6, are there other apps that measure movement? She says yes, but she didn't look to see if Libby had them. Court is in recess. And then I want to read about what's his face trying to do a Google last minute. Peggy. Hi, Peggy. So Peggy is here. Peggy is our beautiful friend Peggy, who was there today, right?
Hi, Peggy.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
It's so nice to finally hear your voice.
Same here.
So what's up? What went on today?
Oh, it was a long day, as expected. Full courthouse. I got in by the skin of my teeth. They had one seat left, and I was happy to take it. It started like going through my notes because my ink kept on running out.
Oh no.
So it's like a little bit choppy at points. Where are you? Because I just joined in. As far as what you're covering right now, like, do you want
So
me
we're
to
in
start from?
we're in a spiral about the phone. Like we're just like totally in a spiral about a phone, the phone stuff.
So yeah, it was a shocker to me, but Ajir did a fantastic job. So there was Stacy Aldridge on the stand. She was on there for quite some time. She just kind of went over her background and basically she reviewed the data that Cecil was analyzing before. And I guess there's two different types of extractions. There's a full file system one, an advanced logical one, and then I didn't cover the other one, but it's just like standard. And basically what Aldridge was able to determine is that the phone it did not move past the time that has been testified, but there was a headphone plugged in at 5:45, which came in like right after a missed call. and then it was unplugged at, and I wrote this down, 10:32 p.m. So there was 2 important milestones captured. A plug in, the headphones plugging in, and then plugging out. So they were kind of going down the path, and this is just my perception of what was being discussed, but they were going down a path where, like, the phone didn't move, right? So, according to Apple Health, which was interesting. So I wasn't sure where they were going with that because, you could have 2 different scenarios. One, you move the phone underneath Libby's body, or no, Abby's body, excuse me, and then plug in the headphones, which really doesn't make sense. Or the headphones were plugged in while she was still alive.
Right. Huh.
And this is coming from the Knowledge C extraction.
Oh, so this is all Knowledge C in like data that they're interpreting. That's so interesting because the media not at one time did they say Knowledge C. Interesting.
Yeah, and this is Knowledge C. I wrote down, so there was 2 extractions in 2017. One was, I think, February 15th, and the other one came in October. So I wasn't sure which one this came from because I know there's been a couple of them. But I wrote down page 4, so I'm not sure if that was from the exhibits or not, but they did pull up the report on the big TV, and it was line 458 of that report. It looked like an Excel file. I didn't have a, also there was like certain codes that go to different like actions. So they were going through the different codes and well, it's really a number. 1 equates to headphones inserted. So they were able to see on this report that it's coming up as a 1. That was the data element that was returned on this report. And no one apparently analyzed that because right after, what's her name? I think her name was Stacy as well. So right after she got off the stand, we took a break, and then Nick did the cross. No, I'm sorry, I take that back. Nick did a cross. I can go into that. It wasn't very effective. I don't know where he was going. He was like fishing. And then after the break, Cecil went on, and there was only a couple questions that were asked, but Nick's redirect was like trying to, it was funny. Apparently Cecil decided to use Google to research if the jack, I guess, got water damage or dirt in there.
Oh my God. I bet one of his Reddit friends was like, quick, I just looked this up. Look it up. Oh my God.
And then no one had questions for Cecil. No dirt. He looked like an idiot. Like even when he walked away, it was just like he was kind of embarrassed. Like I think this is more Nick than him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I kind of felt a little bit bad for him, but like he went with it, so I don't know. He went with this plan.
He could have stopped. I mean, this is the thing. I agree with you. Like Nick or someone is like, they're like digging their heels in and doubling down at all costs, and they're like dragging all of these other people through the mud with them. And I mean, but they're going along with it. So.
Oh, and another thing that he asked him is if he had the education to do the tower analysis, and he said no, he's not educated to do the tower analysis.
Okay.
So that was something I wrote down too.
Okay, and this is Cecil. They're asking.
Right.
Okay.
And then when Azir went back, she like was heated, and I don't blame her, but it was really impactful from
Okay.
my perspective. She's like, what, the first thing she asked was, what Google? What did you use? Like, what Google website did you, like, which
Yeah.
website is it? She's like, there's many websites. And she's like, which one specific? And he would not, like, I don't know. I don't think he really called out anything, with a lot of substance to it. And then I'm paraphrasing here. This is what I wrote down, but like, she made a point, like, how long did you have the phone for? The ISP. She's like 7 years or something like that. He's like, yes. And then the point she made, and this is totally paraphrasing, like, it wasn't important enough for you to research if, one, if there was that, code to see if there was headphones plugged in. And then two, if dirt or water would impact the phone.
So when you said that the report, like the data that the report showed was a 1, they have like a system for categorizing what action result, whatever, and it was like a 1, which means the headphone jack was plugged in, right? Is that kind of what I understood?
Yes.
And that was
yes.
and that was, when was that extraction or that report from?
I believe it was in 2017. I'm not positive though.
Oh,
but
so
that was what I was taking from that.
So they had that information all the way back in 2017, and they never looked into it further.
I believe so. I hope I'm not getting that wrong, but I'm pretty
No,
sure.
that sounds totally in line with what we've seen so far. So I imagine that you're getting that exactly right. Wow. So I'm sorry. So you were saying Ajay was heated but effective. So she basically challenged him about his Google search and how you didn't care enough to do that sooner, I guess.
Pretty much, yes.
Okay.
And what else? Oh, another thing that I learned, because they were asking, going back to the other Stacy that was the expert, that she went back the 13th from the morning. So like the first event, or one of the first events, was at 10:15 a.m. The phone was in low power mode. So that is something I wrote down as well. And then she was running, like, the iOS version was 10.2.
Okay, so 10:15 a.m. Libby's phone is in low power mode, and is that like the first data point they had that day?
I believe so. I mean, she did mention it.
Okay.
Like, I went back to like this far in the day.
Yeah.
So it was one of the first.
Okay, so she was really interested in like a specific timeline, because it sounds like from her testimony that like she didn't have a lot of time, because they didn't even have, I mean, when did they get Cecil's report? It was like really recent, like September or something, I want to say.
Yeah, I did write down something in 2024.
Okay, so the defense was basically like, do what you can with the time you have. And I wish that Courtney was on here, because she's been screaming about Knowledge C ever since the hearings over the summer. She's been like, Ajay has something up her sleeve. I know it, because she asked Cecil about Knowledge C, and they objected to it. Like, that's fine, I'll save it for trial. So Courtney's been like waiting for the Knowledge C bomb to drop, and it sounds like it did today.
Yes, it did. And I mean, I really think that, like, we were kind of like, there was people talking in between, like when we were in recess. And one theory, like, this has not been testified on, but like, it would be like, because we know that, right, Libby made an unsuccessful FaceTime. I think that came out this week sometime.
Yes. Could you remind us about that, or do you not? Did they talk about that today?
No, they didn't. I'm just like, we're just like putting things together. Like, was it used to like try to like,
figure out
figure out, or at least have somebody listen to what was going on around her.
Right.
And if Libby did that, then that screws up their timeline completely. And I think it would screw up actually, even without that, may screw up the timeline.
So there was a unsuccessful FaceTime?
Yeah, I thought I heard, like, this was not,
Like
I
it
thought I
wasn't
heard
new
Andrea
today.
say something. Yeah, it wasn't
Okay.
today. I don't believe they mentioned it.
You're probably, and I'm
Just saying
sure
off
that
of
that,
memory. And what other
I
people
know
were
that,
talking about.
I feel like you're right. And then I know that they said that there was like an unsuccessful unlock or unsuccessful something, but I don't know if I knew like that they were certain about an unsuccess. That's crazy. How long have they had all of this? Like since 2017, they've had all of this info?
That's what I gather, because they were talking more about like the 2 reports in 2017.
Wow. So how did it kind of end today?
So there was so it was Cecil, and then there was Brian Hunter. And he was on for a very short time. I'm not sure I don't recall why he was called, but it was just like a couple questions each. And then there was a long sidebar behind the TV.
Huddled up in their like little nook.
And then the jury was then let go a little bit early. So I think it was like 4:20, 4:30. And then there was another sidebar even after they left the room behind the TV with the noise machine going on. And then Judge Gull went back on the record and basically, I couldn't hear that well, but made a comment like, glad to see everyone's working together or something like that. But I didn't catch anything that they were talking about when the jury was out of the room. And then she dismissed all of us. So that's how it ended.
Were people shook it?
Yeah. I think a lot of people were looking around, like people are scared to make any noises because we were warned that people are, talking, and that the bailiff reported it, and if someone's caught talking, you'll be asked to leave and you won't be able to come back. So it was hard for people to say anything at that point.
Even after the court is adjourned?
Oh, when the court was adjourned, no, we were just all, to answer your question, yes. I think people were just shocked a little bit. There was a little shock factor. But I just ran to get to my car because I wanted to go to the trail before it got dark. Then I chickened out because there's a killer at loose, so I might want to go in there. But yeah, it was eerie for sure.
So what do you think this means for the state's case? And what do you think this means for the case, the trial? What do you think happens?
I'm not sure. I'm thinking that it's something with the timeline. There's a reason why they brought these times up, right? 5:40 and 10 o'clock at night. Who's unplugging the headphones?
Yeah. Who's plugging
And
them
how
in?
were and where was the phone? Because Nick was trying to insinuate that if somebody plugged it in, it would show up on Apple Health. But I disagree with that. But I'm no phone expert by all means. But we already established earlier, we went through the whole, they went through the whole bump thing in a car. Maybe that's going to register something, maybe not. What constitutes as a step. So I don't know why, Nick was trying to say, why wouldn't this register? That's my perception of it. Why wouldn't Apple Health show a movement of this? Plugging in and plugging out. And I think that's like a slippery slope either way. Because
Yeah.
either, you know what I mean? Like it's laying flat. So if he's trying to like advocate that it would register, I'm thinking, you know what I mean? I don't know where I'm going with this actually.
No,
But
yeah.
like if it
Yeah.
would register, then like he can't like there was a phone that got plugged in and plugged out. Like that exists. So I'm not sure why he's trying to mitigate it or even remediate the fact that that exists
Right.
and how that correlates with the movement. Do you know what I mean? It's just weird
Yeah.
that he was trying to
Yeah.
go out with that.
And it
But
sounded
yeah,
like they said it was like either wired headphones or an auxiliary cable or like an auxiliary cord. Did they specify, or they just said it was either one of those two?
it was. They said audio input.
Right. Okay. So that could be
So
like an
yeah.
aux, in like a car, maybe an aux cord or headphone jack. Yikes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not sure what else it would be. Like, it could be to use to silence the phone because it was just ringing.
Right. Yeah.
But that's at 5:45.
Right.
And then the 10 o'clock, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think they could try, like, both of those exist. Like,
Right.
how do you have, like, two weird scenarios that exist? Like an in and an out, 5 hours
Right.
apart. It's weird.
Right. Exactly. It's not just like a fluke, like a something like, because you have to account for both of those. Those are like intentional actions that they were able to identify and pinpoint, and they were able to do that as early as 2017. But it doesn't sound like ISP really gave enough of a shit to actually, either they didn't know what they were doing to interpret it, or they just didn't. They were so like fixed on this made up timeline that somebody came up with that they were like, well, that's impossible, it's a fluke, and they just ignored it.
Or, I mean, I'm thinking that the made up timeline is just to involve around Richard Allen.
Yeah.
Really. Like, I don't even know what their timeline was before
I don't
that.
know.
But yeah, it
I don't know.
doesn't sound like they did a good job at all with, looking at all the information.
Peggy,
that
do you mind?
existed.
There's like a little short, last update here by Wish. Do you mind if we read it together?
Oh, please,
Okay.
please do.
So it says, this is from the most recent update. So at 4:07 p.m., court is back in session. Judge Gold starts off by scolding the jury. Scolding the jury or scolding the y'all? She didn't scold the jury.
I didn't hear her scold the jury at all.
Okay, so yeah, she would not have scolded the jury. She's just scolded everybody else.
Yes, yes.
Okay. The defense calls Cecil from ISP. Ajay asked him what an audio output start means. He says he does not know. Cecil says he doesn't have the education to know why a cell phone would or wouldn't connect to a tower.
Yep,
Cleveland begins.
that's accurate.
That's exactly what he said. I would have been like, I probably would have felt embarrassed too, honestly, like for him, even though. Ugh. McClellan begins cross-exam at 4:08. Cecil says that he Googled the water question asked by the jury before the break. He said Google said that a phone could register water or dirt in the headphone port as having headphones plugged in. Ajay begins redirect and asks, do you normally Google search when conducting research in a criminal investigation? Cecil says, not normally, no. Ajay says, do you normally look at peer-reviewed articles, right? And he says, that's correct. Ajay asks, you and the state have had 7.5 years to research this. And he says, that's correct.
Yep.
My stomach hurts just reading that. Oh, God. The defense calls Brian Bunner, a lieutenant with ISP. Ajay asks, do you know what an audio output means? Bunner says no. She then asks, have you done any Google searches? He says no.
Yes,
Defense
she
says
did.
nothing further. No cross.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Peggy. They got crucified.
It was awesome. It was so worth the drive and waking up at 3 a.m.
I'm so glad you got to see that in person. I'm so
Yes.
glad you got to see that. Oh my God. Right. He's a digital forensics guy, not a cell site location information guy. Oh my God. She only asked that last witness 2 questions. Do you know what this is very important? Do you know what audio output means? Very important thing given what we're discussing. And he said, no. Have you done any Google searches? No. And that's it.
Yep, that seems accurate. Because I even wrote IDK.
I don't know. IDK. Oh my God. That's bad. So now, do they give you a sense of like what now? They don't, obviously, they don't tell you anything. They don't tell you like what's coming tomorrow, what to expect, nothing.
No, they didn't.
Did they talk at all about cell phone locations or just like the cell phone itself, like things involving, you know, access and whatever data? But did they talk about location at all?
I don't. I know that they mentioned cast
Okay.
a little bit, and there was something that leaked in 2019 for
Mhm.
that the method of cast data, but it wasn't really banned.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay.
I don't even know what to say. Like, does anyone have any specific questions? Oh, is there anything in your else in the notes like from earlier from without the cell phone that like stuck out to you that you want to like unpack for us or talk about?
There was, let's see, there was, I think, 2 doctors that came on today going over the bullet. The one, I'm still like, I haven't ate, so I'm a little
Yeah.
bit going on fumes right now, and it's like the
Oh
first time
yeah.
I'm looking
Well,
over my notes, but yeah, there was Dr. God, looks like I wrote yesterday, but that can't be right. Yeah, there was a lot about the bullet, and basically what I gathered from it was that the marks really, like, his findings was they're not, it's like not enough information, or he doesn't agree with the report on the bullet.
Yeah.
Or whatever you want to call it. Sorry.
No, that's yeah. So DB is like probably about to burst. So how did the firearms expert come across in general? Like how did they, what impression did they leave? How did he come across?
I think he was pretty effective.
Yeah.
I'm a little biased though, so
Right.
yeah, I think there's at least enough to, you know, boil down to which expert do you like better, you know, from a jury perspective.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I can go over my notes with you at another time.
Oh yeah, Peggy, go
Type it up.
eat.
Yeah,
Please.
I just like,
Absolutely.
because like it was a long day and I took a lot of notes
Yes,
on this,
absolutely.
so
I would love that. And it would be at a time when like, and our friend DB, I know like he's just said today has been very specific to his specific interests in this case specifically. So even at another time when he can be on, you know, here with us and pick your brain. And I know he would probably have a lot of questions that I would never even think of. So I would love to have you back soon to do that.
okay, that sounds great. Well,
Okay.
thank you for having me on. Do you have any other
Thank you.
questions?
I can't think of any. I mean, I have like a million questions, but I don't think that they're anything that anybody could answer right now until I guess we'll see. I'm interested in what the defense thinks that means and like what. Yeah, but no, I don't have any questions. I think just processing, unless someone in the chat has something super quick burning question that they want to ask. But I think that we're just gonna see what happens. Yeah. Well, thank you,
Yeah,
Peggy. It was so nice to
I'm
meet you.
excited. I'm not going to be there tomorrow, unfortunately, but I'm excited to hear everyone else's recaps of tomorrow, because I think really there's more to come about this timeline.
I think so too. I think so too.
Okay, well, Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Peggy. Have a good night. Drive safe.
Problem.
We will talk to you soon. Everybody is just grateful, and yeah, we'll talk soon.
Okay. Take care. Bye.
Bye. Oh my gosh. I don't even know what to think. I can't wait to yeah, I don't know. Peggy's the best. Peggy's the best. Donald's the best. I'm in shock. I definitely felt I think we've all been expecting some kind of a bombshell with the phone, but I really did not expect something so specific to manual, like something that had to have been like hands touched that cell phone. And that comment now makes so much sense, because like that's not something that you can just like iCloud or you like connect or do from like far away, that you could like, my brain's not, I'm like all over the place right now, so I'm having a hard time with word find. But like it's not like you could just like remote in and do something to the phone. Like that's a plug in and an unplug, and I don't really know what the fuck to make of that. That's, and then okay, so it's plugged in, but like why? So it stops pinging. You did not hear an exchange with Gollinger. So I think that what people are probably getting confused, and I'll play it really quick.
Do you?
Oh, no, wrong thing. I think that what people are referring to is when this one juror was like, got frustrated with Luttrell during the bullet expert. And I think
Yes or no. And he started on this long answer, right? This long explanation of an answer. And one of the jurors, and then the prosecution interrupted to say yes or no again. And one of the jurors blurted out, "Let him answer." So I had not seen that before. I think the juror probably immediately regretted that. It seemed like.
So everyone's reporting that a juror yelled at Frangel, or not everyone, but I've seen a couple of people misunderstanding that interaction. I think, yeah, I don't think in a million years that wouldn't, I don't know. They'd probably be, they'd be wherever Sarah Carbaugh, wherever Sarah Carbaugh put Bridge Guy, that's where that juror would be. So yeah, if the state had this info, it really may be one of those rare cases of successful prosecutorial misconduct that can overcome qualified immunity if the jury acquits. How much protection could the investigation and or prosecutor derive from claiming stupidity? Like, well, yeah, we had all of this, but we didn't know what it meant. We didn't know what we were looking at. Because now all of a sudden, Carter kicking the FBI off in 2021 and asking for them to return all of their, but you know what's weird, or not weird, but this is a specific component. I need the all eyes timeline really quick. This is a specific component of what they do in this case, where we've talked about how they delete like they destroy any record that's been made, right? So they do that with something as unofficial as like a media, like an interview with the media, right? And they'll be like, you have to retract that story, like with the ISP DNA trooper, whatever. So they do it in that way. There's all these 404 links for Delphi. This is like, just everybody knows that. But there's another thing that is pretty specific to the Delphi investigation, and it has to do with like, so one, I want to know where someone like Doug Carter gets the audacity and the boldness and the like reassurance that that there will be no consequences. Like, where does Doug Carter get off thinking that he can just kick the FBI off and demand that they return discovery and there will be like no kind of like consequence or repercussion or like that's one question I have. Like, where do they get off? And then my second question would be, oh God, sorry. I promise that this is worth it. I just need to find. Does anyone off the top of their head remember when the state filed their protective order or their motion for their protective order over this discovery specifically, where they were like, you have to return all of the, I think it was in December, might have been in January. Here it is. Got it. Ha. I love when I look for things and then I find them. I love when that happens. So this is Nick McClelland's February 13th. He filed this, and this was after. So just to orient us, February 13th, 2023. At this exact time when this is filed, Rosie is fighting to get Rick a place in the Cass County Jail. He initiated that process, and around this exact time, the state had a discovery deadline looming on February 8th. Nick McClelland goes before the county council on February 7th and basically shits his pants. He's like panicked and like frantic and like begging them for money because we're drowning. We have all this time sensitive like work we have to do. We need more money to do it. And so they had not turned over basically any discovery to the defense at this point. None. The defense is sitting there waiting for it because they're supposed to have a bail let hearing, and it has to get delayed because the state has not given them any discovery. So at that exact time, when all this is going on, Nick McClelland files a motion for a protective order over the discovery. It's very interesting. I think, I'm not going to read all of it. There's just one part in particular. And notice that he specifically mentioned, it's like, this is the plan all along. You're governed by the court, subject to the court's contempt powers for any violation. Upon final disposition of the case, the discovery material and any and all transcripts shall be returned to the Carroll County Prosecutor's Office or maintained by the defense counsel pursuant to the terms herein. Why are they so obsessed with destroying like the record? I mean, we know why. But like, this is how they operate. This is really their strategy. But like, did they all like agree to it ahead of time, or is this just like how they all do shit in Indiana? I don't know. And why did Doug Carter kick them off in 2021? And what happened other than Greg Ferenczi died? He was very involved in a theory of the crime that didn't jive with the Unified Command Task Force. And I feel like we heard something about the FBI, like the timeline around that time in 2021. Wasn't the FBI doing something with the cell phone extraction or the cell phone data? Like there was something around that time. And there had to have been some kind of a disagreement or else. Well, Joanna, I also don't think, like Andrea mentioned this last night, yes, Carter made that demand of them, but I don't think that the FBI is in the business of turning over their work product on a case that they've been investigating. Like I imagine they would have told him to just like kick rocks and pound sand and get the fuck out. But I don't know, because I actually, back in the day, before, I asked Jen Coffendaffer a question about the FBI, like when the FBI comes in to assist a smaller agency, like a state or a local agency, so the FBI comes in and let's say they execute a search warrant or something, and like they collect and gather evidence, and they assist with a geofence, warrant, and they collect all the geofence data and they compile it and everything. Like, what does that evidence when the case goes cold or it's solved or it's prosecuted, whatever, like, does that evidence all stay in like the FBI cabinet, or does it go back to the state? And Jen was basically like, the FBI don't want, they don't want to be connected to anything that's not like just theirs. Like if they do a search and discover evidence, that evidence belongs to like the county or whoever has jurisdiction. Like they don't even want it. They're not going to store it. They're not like a storage center. Like, but this is different. This sounds like the FBI did their own investigation, because we know that they did. And they're not going to turn that shit over to, just because Doug Carter's like, give me everything that you've done related to the Delphi investigation, all your depositions, all your interviews, like give it all. Like, you're not going to, no. Does he really think he can like boss them around? I mean, he does think he can, but like my question is like, can he actually though? Why do they? This is true. Click and Murphy still had all their work. Yep. I'm super pissed. Hashtag justice for Kevin Murphy, he's a total fucking Chad defense daddy, and he's awesome. And he introduced himself to Yellow Jacket. He was very kind. He's very appreciative of all of this and y'all and everybody who's like, hey, by the way, maybe there's something else going on here. But yeah, Gull wouldn't even let him they wouldn't even let him name him. It's like so frustrating given how much work they did. What small gummo town kicks off the feds? I don't know. They do have all of Carter's emails, though, that I think imagine when this case is over, we are all gonna our mission is going to be, as a collective, our next call to action. Now that we've successfully swarmed the mainstream media and shamed and trolled and memed them into compliance with our demands, kind of. I think our next group project should be to bury the Indiana State Police and the Carroll County Sheriff's Department in FOIAs. And yes, destroy the empire. Kira knew where I was going with that. We are going on a FOIA blitz, and we are going to see some fucking exhibits and work product, because this is bullshit. I have to wonder if the question about the defense confirming ISP asked the FBI to return the evidence is going to lead to something, perhaps impeachment coming. It was interesting that they called Carter, and I think DB had a good thought about maybe they called Carter to the stand to testify to that specifically about the FBI, so that the FBI could be like, could come in, but like, or maybe they just needed him to put on the record that he dismissed the FBI. Brad says, I'm in and I live here. Hell yeah, Brad. We have a local soldier who's going to help us destroy the empire. FAFO FOIA. I like it. FAFO FOIA. So what do you do when like they just refuse to comply with public access laws? Like obviously we're seeing it happen now with Gull. She's not releasing the audio, which is, there's no question whether or not she's supposed to. She is supposed to, and she's not doing it. So like obviously ISP and Carroll County sheriffs are gonna refuse. What if Rick gets acquitted, which is obviously what matters? But what if Rick gets acquitted and then they're like, oh, well, it's an open investigation forever. And they like use that as a loophole to never have to release any of their exhibits or investigatory findings or anything like until the end of time. I could see them doing some shit like that. I don't think that they will ever, unless some outside agency comes in, like Free Them All has some really good insight. I like this. That's exactly what will happen, Ange, I know. Yes, Joanna, Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, like making a FOIA request to like a government agency to obtain a record or, documents that are publicly available per public access laws. I'm wondering if that question is planting a seed to prove that the state knew this and the FBI had this evidence, but the state moved forward with prosecuting Rick anyway. I 1000% believe that the state of Indiana, the prosecutor in Carroll County, and the investigators that assisted, and continue, and Harshman, Holman, Liggett, fucking who else? Harper, who's Doug Carter's BFF. We went through the academy together. Yeah, you sure did. They knew that this case was bunk, that they had nothing. And instead of like pausing, and we've seen high profile, look at Barry Morphew. Like, we've seen high profile cases where when you don't have the evidence you need and you can't and shouldn't continue to prosecute, the charges are dropped, whether with or without prejudice. I mean, we've seen both, but like you dismiss the charges because you don't have a case. And there's so many instances in here that, like, in this case that they should have absolutely taken a pause and like reassessed. TUI can be used for any investigative materials in federal custody. The state is having to do this in the Idaho 4 case for all the cell data. Ashley's asking about Flora, which, by the way, has suffered. I mean, Galen and her 4 girls who are deceased, and the entire community of Flora and all of Galen's family and everyone who, in that community, has suffered in the same fucking way that they have in Delphi, because the same fucking dudes are the ones that are investigating that case too. And you know how much evidence was destroyed in the Flora case? All of it. Almost all of the evidence in the Flora case was either not preserved properly or destroyed or lost. It's gone. And a lot of that came out in Galen's civil case, and it's devastating. I know they walked back the arson determination for Flora. Have they said that Stephanie and Mai was intentionally set or still silent? They've never said. They're so reluctant to ever actually issue a determination for, and I know that our like fires are really hard to investigate, but like they're not this hard. They talk about how hard they are. Well, maybe if you have competent like, I don't know. Brad says, trust me, it's a good old boy club here. None of us are in it. It's very much guilty until proven innocent in these parts. Brad, never talk to the police. Make a promise to us right now, Brad. You will never talk to the police. If you're guilty, and especially if you're innocent, don't ever talk to the police over there. It's really scary. These are children. That pesky old filate cabinet. These are children. 6 children, 6 girls. What Peggy said just like made me so sad and like made the hairs on my neck stand up. She said, I was gonna go to the trail after court got out today and like try and stop by, but there's a killer on the loose. Clearly, like that information that came out today, like the implications of that, even though we all knew that Rick was not the guy. I mean, that to me, I don't know. Who the fuck did this? What the fuck happened to those girls that night? So here's what I think I want to do. I'm going to do a food, and I'm going to do a walk, and I'm going to do a stretch and a water and all the things, and maybe do a say hello. And then I'm going to, we can watch Andrea tonight. I'm going to try to do it how we've been doing it. I think that I may have to, because I don't know if I'll have two devices that I can do audio output like on tonight. So we might just have to like, y'all might have to watch Andrea's stream on your own device and have like the chat, our little live pulled up. I don't know if if that will work for everyone. I wish that you could play 2 lives at once, but I don't think you can. All of that to say, you'll have to stream Andrea and with Andrea's audio, but I will do it live, and we can do our little chat since we're codependent. If the phone issue, awesome. If the phone issue wasn't a problem for prosecution, they would have offered a good alternative for how to explain it. They could have rebuttal if they had a better expert to explain, and they don't. No, they literally went into the hallway, did a panic, did a huddle, and did a Google. And then they did walk of shame. I do feel a little bad for Cecil because I feel like they're the ones responsible for identifying appropriate experts with the appropriate level of know-how and knowledge, you know, specific to his area of study. And breaking, WTHR just reported that FBI cell expert Stacey Eldridge just said that she does not love Richard Allen. That made me laugh. We can do a codependent just like Ricky. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if anybody else went listening to Andrea go through the details of Dr. Polly's assessment of him and what his diagnoses look like and how they present. I don't know if anyone else here was thinking that's so me. He's so me for that. Like I think a lot of us can relate to a lot of those feelings. Were they hoping that the defense would just miss this buried in all the disorgan? Yes. Yes. 100%. And the defense said that much. I know I said I was going to go, but the defense said that much in the Franks memo. They literally said the state buried these answers in a needle in a haystack, thinking and hoping that we wouldn't find it. But we found it. And I do think this was buried. And I don't think the state knew. First of all, I'm not convinced they knew what they were looking at. But I also think that they would have probably, by not investigating what it means. Choose your fighter. Nice lady. Who is that? Who's on the left, DB? I don't get it. I hate when I don't get it. I hate when I don't get a joke, and I especially hate when I don't get a DB joke. Who was that? Stacy? Oh, is that the Stacy that was just on the stand? Eldridge? Is that her? Oh, I trust anything she tells me. Yeah. No, yeah, thanks. No wonder they put Mullins on the stand 4 times in a row right before they, in the week leading up to her title. Makes no sense. Okay, I'm going to go. I'm going to do I'll create another stream. And then at 7, we will log on and chat together and watch Andrea together. Okay, bye.